Chapter 46-24. In Wenran's heart, and Yuan was more important than her. No, how could that be? However, when she saw Wenran smiling and patting in Yuan's shoulder indulgently, Mengshi stood up and grabbed Wenran's arm, indicating that she was not feeling well and wanted to go back. Then let's go home. Wenran hugged Mengshi, which made her feel much better. However, Wenran's next sentence chilled her heart. And Yuan, when you get home later, remember to call to make sure you're safe. Also, go back and cook some hangover soup and have a good sleep. There's nothing much to do recently, so it's okay to go to the company later. Your health is more important. And Yuan, okay. Mengshi only felt that her legs were cold. When she followed Wenran out, she looked back at Yuan and happened to see him looking at Wenran in a daze. She couldn't help but quicken her pace. Mengshi only felt flustered and a little disgusted. Recently, Yuan had been helping Wenran prepare for the wedding. Because of what he said before, Mengshi no longer found him pleasing to the eye. As long as it was something Yuan chose, she felt dissatisfied and wanted to choose again. When she thought about how Yuan had prepared the things for her wedding according to his preferences, she felt very uncomfortable. I don't like this color. And this restaurant, I don't like it either. This doesn't seem to be suitable. And Yuan was very patient. Then what do you like, sister-in-law? I'll choose again. Mengshi felt uncomfortable in her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. As long as it was something he chose, it was not suitable. Her expression was particularly ugly. Actually, I've shown these to boss before, and he's quite satisfied. If you're not satisfied, you can discuss it with boss again, and Yuan said patiently. Mengshi felt even more uncomfortable. Later, Mengshi told Wenran that she wanted to decorate the wedding herself and choose the things she needed. After all, it was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Wenran could tell that Mengshi seemed to be a little dissatisfied with Yuan. Is there a problem with Yuan? You seem to be a little dissatisfied with him? Wenran asked directly because Yuan was his good brother. He didn't want any misunderstandings. Mengshi quickly shook her head. No, I really want to choose it myself. Okay, I won't let Yuan do this. I was afraid that something would go wrong with you, so I troubled Yuan to help me. Wenran was actually a little dissatisfied, and Yuan was the person he trusted the most. Mengshi's attitude made him feel a little sorry for Yuan. After this incident, Wenran apologized to Yuan again, and Yuan generously expressed that he didn't mind. Sister-in-law may be too nervous. He was becoming more and more like a green tea. If Brother Xing knew, he would definitely laugh at him. At Mengshi and Wenran's wedding, Yuan got drunk again. When Mengshi saw Wenran instructing others to take care of Yuan, he felt as if he had been fed a mouthful of feces. When Yuan returned home, he immediately sent a message to Tanghua. Wenran, this brat, really treats me as a brother. He doesn't mean anything else, but Mengshi is really miserable. Tanghua, isn't she rotten now? I thought she would be excited to know that someone liked her husband and wanted to play matchmaker. And Yuan, she feels like she's been fed a mouthful of shit. She's upset. Just wait and see. I don't have to do anything. I just need to cooperate with Wenran, and it will be enough for her to suffer. Tanghua, I'll prepare some gifts for her. And Yuan had a bad feeling in his heart. Boss, what gifts do you want to prepare? Tanghua, Wenran is also considered a rising star. Naturally, there should be both men and women suitors. If it's women, I won't arrange anything. I'll arrange more male suitors. Mengshi can tolerate Tang Tailin cheating on Wenlang in his marriage and matchmaking the two of them. He even has the cheek to ask me to give him my blessings. Then I'll send more suitors to her husband, and Yuan. Wenran, this brat is very determined. Tanghua, I don't plan to let them succeed. I'm just arranging for some outstanding men to appear by Wenran's side. The so-called outstanding people will always attract more attention, right? And Yuan, all right, they're just an eyesore, right? And Yuan didn't expect Tanghua to act so quickly. At a cocktail party, Mengshi also attended with Wenran. When Mengshi returned from the washroom, he heard the boss from another city talking to Wenran. His face was full of admiration, but when he heard the other party's words, his face almost cracked. President Wan is young and promising. I didn't expect you to already have a wife. The handsome boss from another city looked regretful. What a pity. If I had come 1 or 2 years earlier, I might have had a chance. And Yuan, very good, boss. You'll arrange it as you wish. Peak. Chapter 46-25. Mr. Zhang, since you know that he already has a wife, why are you still talking about these meaningless things? Mengshi really couldn't stand it anymore. She walked up and took Wen Ran's arm, showing a very possessive look. She didn't like the young and handsome Mr. Zhang and looked at him as if he was a mistress. Mr. Zhang was embarrassed, but he was a cultured person, so he couldn't lower his face to argue with a woman. I'm just sorry. I don't mean anything else. I'm really sorry for causing trouble to Mrs. Wan. After saying that, Mr. Zhang left. Mengshi was still unwilling to give up. She said to Mr. Zhang's back, Mr. Zhang, you'd better be clear about the occasion when you say these words in the future. It's not good to always cause misunderstandings. I believe in Wen Ran, but others may misunderstand that Mr. Zhang is intervening in someone else's relationship. Mengshi's words were very rude. Even if Wen Ran stopped her, she still finished what she wanted to say. Ever since she got engaged and got married, she hadn't had a good day. There was an Yuan, who always coveted Wen Ran, and there were countless people outside who had designs on Wen Ran. Today, she was here. If she wasn't here, she didn't know what those people would do. Why were men so shameless nowadays? If they liked the same sex, they dared to openly express it at the cocktail party. How shameful, Mengshi thought bitterly, but she didn't realize that she had completely lost control. CEO Zhang was really embarrassed. I'm sorry to have caused so much trouble to President Wan and Mrs. Wan. In order to avoid misunderstanding, we'd better wait and see about our cooperation. Mr. Zhang, please wait. Wen Ran broke free from Meng Shi and hurriedly chased after him. His business had just started, and he really needed this young Mr. Zhang, who was a foreign investor. From the conversation just now, Mr. Zhang really expressed his regret in a very distant manner and didn't want to use cooperation as an excuse. In the business world, he had seen countless dirty people. Mr. Zhang was actually a good person. He was looking forward to their cooperation. He didn't expect Meng Shi to mind so much, but he didn't blame Meng Shi. Even if he heard someone say such things to Meng Shi, he would feel uncomfortable. If he hadn't experienced a series of changes and suffered a lot, when he heard someone say such things to Meng Shi, his reaction might be similar to Meng Shi's. He might even beat that person up and not care about the cooperation at all. However, he was no longer the fearless Wen Ran from his childhood. He shouldered a heavy responsibility. Only by supporting the family and making the company prosperous could he be worthy of his wife and his brothers. Losing Mr. Zhang's cooperation was a huge loss for the company. CC, the cooperation with CEO Zhang this time is very important. CEO Zhang is a good person. He definitely doesn't have any ulterior motives. I'll come back and explain to you later. After saying that, Wen Ran chased after President Zhang. Meng Shi's eyes reddened. She felt that Wen Ran didn't care about her as much as before. She seemed to hear the people around her whispering. They were talking about her. Was she no longer liked by Wen Ran? As long as Wen Ran stopped liking her, wouldn't those people have a chance? Dream on. She's too jealous. She doesn't care about the occasion at all. President Wen's temper is really good. He's not even angry at all. If I had known that Wen Ran was so powerful, I wouldn't have listened to my mother. I thought that Wen Ran was useless and gave up pursuing him. Vertex. Chapter 46-26. A good man has to be started from a young age. Look at Meng Shi. Didn't she succeed in an instant? Meng Shi was with President Wen back then. How could President Wen not indulge her? As the saying goes, a loyal man like President Wen will definitely not mistreat a woman who has suffered with him. I regret it. I really regret it. Meng Shi did not know that these people were not mocking her, but envious. Sister-in-law, President Zhang didn't mean anything else. Don't take it to heart. An Yuan appeared beside Meng Shi at the right time and poured her a drink. President Zhang has a new project in his hands. If our company can get it, it will bring the company to a higher level. It's not that boss doesn't care about you, sister-in-law. Otherwise, if it were someone else, boss might be angry. If Meng Shi did not know that an Yuan liked Wen Ran, she would have been comforted by these words. Anyway, I think that saying those words to a married man is shameless, disgusting, and cheap, Ming Shi said bluntly. Especially those who clearly know that Wen Ran is married, but still think of Wen Ran in their hearts. Regardless of whether they are men or women, they are very shameless. When In Yuan heard this, how could he not understand that Ming Shi was scolding those who had a crush on Wen Ran, but she was also scolding him? His face stiffened at the right time, and Ming Shi happened to see it. Then, he returned to normal and did not say anything else. In Yuan, don't you think so? Isn't this kind of person cheap, shameless, and disgusting? Ming Shi saw that In Yuan did not speak, but she did not give up. Instead, she asked In Yuan to answer. In Yuan could not hold back his fake smile, but he still said, "Sister-in-law, are you tired? Do you want to go home first? I'll send you back." "No, you answer first." Just when In Yuan felt that it was very difficult, Wen Ran walked back. After his eloquent words, perhaps his sincerity and ability moved President Zhang. President Zhang was still willing to continue the cooperation, but the other party refused to meet Ming Shi. In addition, he showed that he definitely did not have any improper thoughts about him. It was indeed inappropriate for him to speak before. President Zhang's magnanimity made Wen Ran feel even more fortunate. Fortunately, he chased after him. Otherwise, he would have missed a very good partner. If it were someone else, not to mention cooperation, they might even make things difficult for him. "What are you talking about?" Wen Ran walked over and pulled Ming Shi. "Cici, are you still angry? There's really nothing between me and CEO Zhang." Wen Ran also found that In Yuan's complexion was not very good. She asked with concern, "Xiao Yuan, your complexion looks a little bad. Are you sick? Why don't you go back and rest first?" Ming Shi was still thinking about President Zhang, but when he heard that Wen Ran was concerned about In Yuan, he almost exploded. She said in a strange tone, "I'm asking In Yuan, are those people who clearly know that you're a married man but still have a crush on you and express their feelings for you cheap, disgusting, and shameless?" "Cici, that's other people's business. You should know that I don't care about these things at all. I'm already married to you. You're the only one in my heart." Wen Ran quickly comforted her, thinking that Ming Shi was still concerned about President Zhang's matter. "In Yuan, why aren't you answering my question? Is this a difficult question?" Today, Ming Shi insisted that In Yuan answer this question. He hoped that the other party would understand his position and not think of being a married man. In Yuan's expression became more and more unsightly, but he still forced himself to answer, "Sister-in-law is right." Wen Ran, on the other hand, was a little displeased. Although he liked Ming Shi and indulged her, he still felt very uncomfortable when he saw her unwilling to forgive him. Vertex. Chapter 46-27. Whether other people liked him or not was their business. No one could control other people's thoughts. However, Ming Shi transferred her anger to In Yuan. She felt very guilty towards In Yuan. This was a brother who had gone through life and death with him. Wen Ran couldn't help but say, "Cici, don't make things difficult for Xiao Yuan. If you're unhappy, you can come at me." "You're making things difficult for me?" Ming Shi couldn't help it, especially when she saw Wen Ran protecting In Yuan. She felt that In Yuan was more important to Wen Ran than her. "Boss, sister-in-law, you guys talk first. I really feel a little uncomfortable. I'm going out to get some fresh air." In Yuan expressed his attitude appropriately. Of course, he actually wanted to find a quiet place to report the news here to Tanghua. Wen Ran didn't want to embarrass Ming Shi in front of everyone. He planned to talk to Ming Shi after going back. In Yuan was a very important person to him. If it weren't for In Yuan, he wouldn't be where he was today. In Yuan, "Boss, Ming Shi can't stay calm anymore. She dissed President Zhang in public today, and even made things difficult for me in front of Wen Ran. Tanghua, she can't hold it in anymore? My mom has been holding it in for 5 years." And Yuan smoked as he sent messages on his phone. He was very satisfied. Wen Ran is really capable. "Boss, you gave him a resource for free. President Zhang actually cooperated with him. Tanghua, I don't mind at all. It's his ability to negotiate. Besides, isn't it more fun to distance him from Ming Shi? Maybe in the future, the Yang group can cooperate with Wen Ran. As long as we can make money, who does it matter who we cooperate with?" In Yuan, "You're right. Boss, you can see through everything. When Ran has some skills in managing the company. He's strict in all aspects. He just needs an opportunity. Tanghua, I can see how much you want to save money to travel. And Yuan, I feel like it's soon. When the matter blows up, I'll ask when Ran to leave the company and only take the shares. Then, I'll travel the world with Brother Zhang and go on adventures. As a human being, he had to do everything that a human being could do. Hearing footsteps, and Yuan hurriedly sent a message to Tanghua, "Boss, I'll talk to you when I'm free. Someone is coming." Tanghua stared at her phone and revealed a naughty smile. Xiefan happened to see it, and he subconsciously looked at Tanghua's phone screen. He was curious who was chatting so happily with her at this time. Judging from the name, it seemed to be a man. Instead of looking at the phone screen, he stared at Tanghua's face. Although he had a straight face, Tanghua could still see the grievance in his eyes. Tanghua handed the phone to Xiefan, which surprised him. He shook his head. "It shouldn't be anything ambiguous. I believe you. See? Aren't you curious?" Tanghua smiled. "We're about to get married. Let me share a secret with you." Only then did Xiefan pick up his phone and look at the chat history between Tanghua and Yuan. Yuan? Just now, he felt that the name Yuan sounded familiar. Now, he finally remembered. Wasn't he Wen Ran's good brother? This Yuan had followed Wen Ran all the way to the world and was Wen Ran's most trusted person. The more he looked at the chat history, the more shocked Xiefan was. He looked at Tanghua in disbelief. Yuan was his fiancé's man? Wasn't he hiding it too well? If Wen Ran knows, she'll cry. Xiefan handed the phone back. Tanghua shook her head. Why would she cry? The purpose of Yuan's existence is to keep Wen Ran away from Meng Shi. On the contrary, with his help, Wen Ran is steadily rising. Without Yuan's existence, no matter how capable Wen Ran is, she wouldn't be able to do it so smoothly. Peak. Chapter 46-28. Yuan's main task over there is to keep Meng Shi at bay? Xiefan felt that it was a waste of talent. If he had a subordinate like Yuan, he would definitely make good use of him. Tanghua chuckled and touched Xiefan's head. She felt that his hair felt good, so she rubbed it again. "I just want Meng Shi to experience how much he hated me back then. You're so vengeful. You should be glad that you didn't offend me when you were young," Tanghua warned him. "Otherwise, you'll be the same." Xiefan's feet turned cold. He was sure that Tanghua was telling the truth, so he changed the topic. "Let's talk about the wedding. Let's not talk about those unhappy things, okay? Okay, let's talk about the diamond ring first. I want a big one, as big as possible." Xiefan's eyebrows relaxed. This was too simple. If a big diamond ring could make his fiancée not want to hold a grudge, it would be too cheap. "In the wedding, we have to hold a big one. Xiefan, that's what we should do. The house must be big too." "Xiefan, that's a must." Seeing that he was so obedient, Tanghua added, "If you don't have enough money, you can ask me for more." System. Yes, the host's various treasures are already moldy in the system space. This guy is really lucky. I'm a little jealous. Xiefan didn't know what to say. He just wanted to get married soon and grow old together. As for Yuan, after closing the chat with Tanghua, Qin Liang came to his side. "Meng Shi is a little too much." Qin Liang's first sentence was this. He actually took out his anger on you for what happened to President Zhang. "Brotherin, are you okay?" Yuan, "I'm fine." Yuan took a puff of his cigarette and felt as happy as a god. What could be wrong with him? He was just thinking about when he could just take a share and travel around the world. When Rant's career was steadily rising. In fact, he didn't need to do much now. He could also manage the company in an orderly manner. Seeing him like this, Qin Liang was very sad. "Don't take it to heart. No matter what, you're the most important brother of Boss. Meng Shi is getting weirder and weirder. It's better to avoid him. After all, Boss likes him." Ever since Meng Shi got married, not only did he guard against women outside, but he also guarded against his brothers. It was also because their eldest brother was too outstanding that he attracted both men and women. "Brotherin, if you were a woman, she probably wouldn't have anything to do with you. Don't say that. It will affect the relationship between Boss and his wife." Yuan finished his cigarette and patted Qin Liang's shoulder. The corner of his lips curled up. It seemed like his retirement plan had to be brought forward. Don't let boss know about my matter. Don't burden him. As for sister-in-law, she probably didn't feel safe because boss was too outstanding. Let's keep our distance. No matter what, boss happiness is the most important. Chapter 46-29. Recently, Mengshi had become more and more suspicious. When Ran returned home, not only did she have to smell him, but she also only allowed him to wear the perfume she had chosen. If there was a slightly different smell, he would have to explain for a long time before she would believe him. When he gathered with his brothers in the company, Mengshi wanted to go with him every time. When it was time, he would clamor to go home. He also always told him that he had to be wary of others. This made Ran very pained. The beautiful marriage he had originally expected seemed to be very different from reality. However, he could still tolerate this for the time being. The company's prosperity could also make up for some of the small flaws in his life. Ever since Ran became better and better, Mengshi's family also became more and more popular with her. Mengshi believed in one sentence: when Ran's money must be spent vigorously. If she did not spend it, there would always be those bitches and shameless people outside who would help her spend it. Now, her grandmother, father, and even her stepmother and younger brother were all very popular with her. All of them were pleasant. She liked this kind of harmonious family. Now that she was rich, of course, she would satisfy their small requests. Her younger brother wanted a car, so she bought him a car worth hundreds of thousands. There were also some miscellaneous things to be filial to her grandmother, to buy cigarettes and wine for her father, and to buy some jewelry for her stepmother. Now, all the neighbors knew that she was filial and said that she was good, until her family discussed with her about buying a wedding house for her younger brother. The number was close to 10 million, which made Mengshi a little hesitant. However, she quickly agreed. However, she could not afford such a large sum of money. She had to discuss it with Ran. After Ran found out, her expression was a little indescribable. 10 million to buy a wedding house for a stepmother's son? And it was a stepmother who treated Mengshi badly. Even if the company was doing well, was 10 million a small amount? Such a large amount of liquid capital could not be taken out casually. Even if she could take it out, Ran would not agree to buy a wedding house for Meng Zicheng. Previously, when Mengshi used a few $100,000 to save face, he felt that it was nothing. However, that family was vampires. Now that Mengshi was getting more and more confused, he could not tolerate this kind of thing to continue. Impossible. When Ran refused, Mengshi's eyes turned red. Why? Have you forgotten the past? How did they treat you in the past? When Ran really wanted to pry open her head and see what was inside. She had such a bad memory. The past is the past, and the present is the present. Now that our family has cleared up the misunderstanding and is living in harmony, what's the use of providing appropriate help? Mengshi said matter-of-factly. Her expression reminded Ran of something. Back then, she had also tried to persuade Tenghua, Jiang Juxiang, and Tang Tailin to reconcile. At that time, he felt that it was inappropriate, but he didn't feel as if he had been stuffed with feces like now. If you must buy it, then let's get a divorce. When Ran's words were said out of anger, she wanted Mengshi to value their relationship and not break it because of those irrelevant people. However, when Mengshi heard this, he exploded. Now that you're rich, have you been wanting to divorce me for a long time? No. Yes, you do. That's what you think. The outside world is so wonderful. If you're not married, you can go and fool around. Do you think I didn't notice the way those men and women look at you? Are you regretting getting married? When Ran felt that Mengshi was being unreasonable, the two of them had a big quarrel, and when Ran left home to go to the company. At that time, and Yuan happened to be in the company. Peak. Chapter 46-30. When Ran said, Cece is still too naive. She can't tell the true colors of that family. 10 million. When the company was first established, we brothers didn't sleep at all. How long did it take to earn 10 million? How can I not be angry when she wants to give them 10 million? When Ran, who didn't smoke much, smoked half a pack in a short while. Boss, don't smoke anymore. It's not good for your health, and Yuan persuaded. He felt that when Ran was really an unlucky child. Unfortunately, if he hadn't offended his real boss, His boss might have taken him in and his life would be much better than now. After getting through this difficulty, he had learned his lesson. His boss wouldn't care about it anymore. When Rand's eyes were a little hot, Cece hasn't suffered much. I've protected her so well that you guys are always bullied. Boss, why do you have to say this? I want to say it. Okay, go ahead. And Yuan didn't mind. As long as when Rand was earning money, he didn't mind Mengxi's attitude at all. When Rand and Yuan chattered a lot for the whole night. At home, Mengxi also came back to her senses. She even cooked and brought it to the company to see Wen Ran. When she arrived, she found Wen Ran and Yuan in the same office. At that time, Yuan was still covering the tired Wen Ran with a blanket. Yuan, I feel that something exciting is going to happen. I'm looking forward to it. Mengxi was furious. She knew that Yuan, this shameless person, would definitely take advantage of the situation. At that time, she couldn't control herself and rushed over and slapped Yuan's face. Shameless. Don't think that I don't know your dirty thoughts. You just want to make things difficult for me and Wen Ran, right? If we get a divorce, you can be promoted, right? Dream on. Such a big commotion woke Wen Ran up. Wen Ran looked at the red palm print on Yuan's face and was completely furious. She shouted, Mengxi, are you done? What do you want to do? Xiao Yuan, are you okay? Wen Ran was very guilty. I'm sorry. Boss, you guys have a good talk. I'll go out first. I won't disturb you guys. And Yuan was about to leave, but he was stopped by Mengxi. Why are you pretending? Today, I'm going to expose your true colors. You clearly like Wen Ran, but you don't admit it. You're just waiting for an opportunity to take action, aren't you? You were hoping that our relationship wouldn't be good. Now that you heard that we were quarreling, you rushed to the company overnight to send warmth. You mistress, how can you be so shameless? You're a disgusting homosexual. The angry Mengxi finally said, Wen Ran, if you come into contact with him, I'm afraid that his illness will spread to you. And Yuan, very impressive, but he couldn't appear to be excited. He had to be sad and not say anything. Boss, I'm leaving first. Wen Ran finally couldn't hold back and wanted to slap Mengxi, but Yuan stopped him. He couldn't hit Mengxi. If Mengxi cried and Wen Ran hit Mengxi, he would feel guilty. You're not allowed to leave. If you want to leave, then don't ever come back. Wen Ran is my man. He's a married man. You better not have any strange thoughts. As long as I'm here, you won't succeed, Mengxi said fearlessly. He even said to Wen Ran, hit him. If you have the ability, hit him. Is that enough? Wen Ran's face was livid. If it's enough, then go back. What are you doing here? Mengxi, you're really too much. Half of this company belongs to Xiao Yuan. You don't have the right to make him leave. If anyone has to leave, it should be you. Besides, he didn't come to the company to see me. He came to work overtime to come up with a plan. Don't think of others as so dirty. In fact, Wen Ran had long known that Yuan was special to him. He had asked Qin Liang about it last time. However, Yuan usually didn't do anything out of line. All of this was just Mengxi's imagination. Even if Xiao Yuan's sexual orientation is different, your scolding is too vicious. Wen Ran had endured for a long time. Didn't you like to talk about these things back then? You were so excited when you saw two men. Have you thought about how I'm going to face these brothers and the company in the future when you scold Xiao Yuan like this? The Peak. Chapter 46:31. Brother, you only know about your brother all day. Do you know what he's thinking? Mengxi had no intention of stopping. She pointed at Yuan fiercely. He has dirty thoughts. Don't you feel disgusted by a brother who covets you at all times? Boss, I'll go back first. Yuan felt that things had gone out of control. His mission was almost complete. Mengxi wanted to say something, but Wen Ran stopped her. He grabbed Mengxi tightly and said in a low voice, apologize to Xiao Yuan. Impossible. Mengxi sneered. He has bad intentions. Why should I apologize to someone who wants to be a mistress? Boss, forget it. Yuan really left this time. He didn't want to continue entangling with Mengxi. A slap was enough to make Wen Ran angry. Wen Ran was a little helpless. Xiao Yuan, you go first. At this time, It was impossible to expect an apology from Ming-Shi. After Yuan left, Ming-Shi calmed down, but she didn't feel that she had done anything wrong. When Ran let go of her and sat back in his seat. What do you want? I'm just protecting my marriage. Ming-Shi pursed her lips. I've long known about Yuan's thoughts. If you don't want a divorce, let him leave the company. I'll watch. Then let's get a divorce. Ming-Shi was stunned. She didn't expect Ran to be so decisive. Sure enough, you also have that kind of feelings for Yuan, don't you? I knew it. There's definitely something between you two. You're disgusting. Ran didn't want to explain. He was too tired. In the past few years after marriage, he was really tired. He liked Ming-Shi, but they only liked each other. The so-called Ming-Shi accompanied him through thick and thin, but that was not the case. Ever since Ming-Shi was with him, he had never let her suffer. Even during the most difficult times, he had never mistreated Ming-Shi. Instead, he had let Yuan down. No matter what Yuan thought of him, the other party had no intention of revealing it. If he hadn't accidentally bumped into it and asked Qin Liang, he wouldn't have known about it. It could only be said that Yuan hid it too well. After being humiliated by Ming-Shi time and time again, he couldn't stand it anymore and felt very sorry for Yuan. Thinking about it carefully, the person who had really accompanied him through thick and thin was actually Yuan. Since he was ignorant and incompetent, Yuan had been by his side. Yuan fought with him until his head bled. She repeated a year with him and got scolded. Later, something happened to his family, Yuan followed him to study entrepreneurship and gave up his bright future to help him. Actually, at that time, within Yuan's excellence, there were better choices. At the beginning of his business, Yuan had put all his eggs in one basket and used all his money to start his business. Every day, he only slept for 3 hours. When he opened his eyes, he was already in the car, all for a few tens of thousands of yuan. Yuan had contributed more to this company than he had, but he had never asked for anything in return. He had no interest in Yuan, so even if he knew what Yuan was thinking, he pretended not to know. He planned to give him more shares in the company. Unexpectedly, Ming-Shi somehow knew Yuan's thoughts and refused to let him off. He even used his status to bully Yuan. If Ming-Shi could not tolerate Yuan, then he could only abandon Ming-Shi. I won't get a divorce. Ming-Shi grabbed her bag and was about to leave, when Rant's words reached her ears. I won't let Xiao Yuan leave. He owns half of this company, or even more. And the Ming family, you can deal with them yourself. From now on, I won't give them a single cent. Ming-Shi was angry and sad, but there was nothing she could do. Looking at Rant's indifferent look, she was a little scared. She could only murmur, I won't get a divorce. I won't let others take advantage of me. And Yuan will never be promoted as long as I'm here. When Rand felt that Ming-Shi was crazy. The Peak. Chapter 46-32. Ming-Shi was still thinking about how to make Yuan retreat in the face of difficulties. But she didn't know that Yuan was already planning to retreat. Boss, actually, we've overestimated Ming-Shi. With her situation, she'll fall out with Rand sooner or later. Tanghua was choosing jewelry. She was about to get married, so of course, she had to choose beautiful ones. I just want her to distance herself. I don't mean anything else. It doesn't matter if she falls out or not. Boss, I plan to make a few big projects in the company and then retire. What do you think? Tanghua said, Sure, it's time to retire. You were slapped for nothing before. If you stay, this kind of thing will happen again. Even if she was a paper person, she was still one of her people. She couldn't stand being bullied. I'll ask my fiancé to give you a project. When the time comes, you can take over. He'll introduce a few more people to you. Whether you can get it or not depends on your ability. When the time came, Yuan would definitely be able to get the shares. It would not be a loss. He could also make Rand feel guilty and Ming-Shi suffer. It was worth it. Yuan rubbed his hands. Thank you, boss. You're really my dear boss. In 3 months, Yuan and the people of the Xie Corporation met and got a big project. Through the Xie Corporation's connections, he got a few other important projects. When the company was celebrating, Yuan and Rand mentioned that they planned to leave the company. This caught everyone off guard. Now that the company is thriving and there are so many talents, I can leave with peace of mind. There shouldn't be any problems on your side, boss, and Yuan said. I was too tired before. I want to rest and visit the world. I'm an orphan. I've lived for nearly 30 years, but I haven't gone out yet. It's always a pity. When Rand finally understood why Yuan had been working so hard recently and got so many projects for the company, it turned out that he was planning to leave, but he was worried. Boss, transfer my shares to the shares that you can get. After all, traveling around the world requires money. I'll consider it an early retirement. And Yuan rubbed his hands. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. With his projects and connections in the past few months, and when Rand's ability, this company was stable. When Rand persuaded him, and so did everyone. And Yuan said, if it's shares, it's okay to give me less as long as I can travel around the world. Seeing that Yuan did not change his mind, when Rand could only let him go. In the end, Yuan left with a rather good portion of the shares. No one had any objections because he was worth it. The current situation of this company would only get better and better. If Yuan did not give up, the shares he held would be more profitable than the shares he held. Meng Shi finally thought of a way to deal with Yuan, which was to introduce a boyfriend to him. Yuan was invited out. When he saw the handsome man beside Meng Shi, he was speechless. Did he really think that Meng Shi liked men? No, he only likes to travel around the world. I've already resigned from my position in the company, and Yuan smiled faintly. You don't have to worry about it in the future. I don't want to do anything to boss. I don't want my existence to make boss's marriage unhappy. Also, I hope you can take good care of him in the future. Don't cause any trouble. Boss has a hard time. Meng Shi was still immersed in the fact that Yuan was going to leave the company, so he didn't react when he heard this. There's no need for a boyfriend. I'll leave tomorrow. Without giving Meng Shi a chance to react, Yuan left. When Rand knew about their conversation, of course, he was worried about Meng Shi. He didn't expect to hear this. Vertex. Chapter 46-33. Boss, Yuan is really kind. Your wife is really insensible. If Yuan had stayed in the company, Qinliang saw that when Rand was in a bad mood and knew that he was also sad. He was too embarrassed to continue speaking. I know you don't want it to be like this. Yuan told us to be more tolerant. As long as she treats you well in the future and doesn't cause trouble, we can pretend that we didn't see it. I'm sorry. Yuan's departure made when Rand's feelings for Meng Shi fade a little. Yuan really went to travel around the world earlier than Tsang Chun, which made Tsang Chun envious. Seeing this, Tsang Chun quickly trained some capable subordinates and reunited with Yuan in less than 2 years. Yuan didn't send when Rand any updates about his travels around the world, but he would update his WeChat moments. When Rand would often look at them, he really didn't mean anything else. He was just very emotional about this matter and felt extremely guilty. However, seeing that Yuan was doing well, he slowly felt relieved. However, he was discovered by Meng Shi once when he looked at Yuan's WeChat moments. The two of them quarreled again. When Rand was relatively calm, he said to Meng Shi slowly, because of you, I lost my best brother. Actually, we're not that compatible, Meng Shi. Meng Shi was suddenly stunned. She grabbed when Rand and cried, asking him if he really liked Yuan. When Rand was very annoyed. He didn't like Yuan. He only saw Yuan as his brother. Why did Meng Shi always not believe him? When Rand, let's have a child, Meng Shi said. When Rand refused, our situation is not suitable for a child. We can't give him a happy life. It's a sin to give birth to him. If you want to use a child to bind our feelings, this is not advisable. A child should be the crystallization of love. You shouldn't use a child to bind this broken relationship. You secretly helped the Ming family again, right? When Rand suddenly changed the topic, the jewelry and bags that I bought for you every year, you sold them all. Meng Shi, do you think a small family like ours can still continue? When Rand took out a divorce agreement, sign it. Half of the assets under my name will be yours. I won't treat you badly. No. Meng Shi shook her head. When Rand said, then file for divorce, the feelings between him and Meng Shi had almost been obliterated. After so many years, he suddenly understood that Mengshi valued herself the most, not him. She was the only one who believed it, not him. As long as she believed it, it was right. If this continued, he was afraid that he would lose the rest of his brothers. He really felt ashamed to face this group of people who had followed him to build his empire. Regardless of whether Mengshi agreed or not, Wenran had already made up his mind. 2 years later, the marriage finally ended. Mengshi left with half of his assets. Wenran became single again and reunited with his former brothers. He even informed in Yuan. The group of people gathered together, and it was as if they had all been relieved at the beginning. When Mengshi moved into the empty house with the property, the Meng family knew about it and moved in one after another. The Meng family squandered more than half of the money in her hands in a few years. When Mengshi came back to her senses, she was faced with the Meng family's accusations again. She cried and quarreled with the Meng family, asking them to move out. However, the Meng family was shameless and insisted on pestering her. They even wanted to introduce some ugly people to her. Without Wenran's help, Mengshi couldn't get rid of the Meng family. On this day, Mengshi was watching TV and happened to see a few familiar faces. She took a closer look and saw that the 3 familiar faces were Tanghua, Xiefan, and Wenran. Tanghua and Xiefan sat together, holding hands and looking very loving. Wenran was still the elegant man, but he was more mature. When the host asked him if he had any plans to find a spouse, he said, "I'm pursuing her, but I don't know if she's willing. After all, it's my second marriage and I'm not worthy of such a good girl." The host said, "It seems that today's interview is full of dog food. I thought that President Xie and Mrs. Xie would feed the 2 single dogs today, but it turns out that I'm the only single dog." Okay, back to the topic. As far as I know, President Xie and President Wen will have a big cooperation this time. I wonder if you can reveal a little? Mengshi's mind was only filled with Wenran's words. He was pursuing a girl and was afraid that he wasn't worthy. Wenran is not within Yuan? Mengshi broke down and shouted. Half a year later, Mengshi was unwilling to leave the house after watching Wenran's wedding of the century. She was in a trance. The Meng family wanted to get the house under her name and sent her to a mental hospital on the grounds that she was mentally ill. When Tanghua heard the news, she only grunted and her expression was very indifferent. In this life, Tanghua was a salted fish, but she always appeared on many important occasions. She was the most important person among the 3 famous entrepreneurs. She was Xiefan's wife, Yang Yushuan's daughter, and Yang Ji's sister. Later, the 3 of them published their autobiographies. In their autobiographies, they realized that this salted fish was not a salted fish at all, but an expert hiding behind others. She was smart and wise. She had silently helped the 3 of them through some difficulties and crises countless times. Many of the major changes in the situation were her handiwork, which made the people who came after her take a big bite of the melon. The peak. Chapter 46-34. Margaret, I'm looking forward to it. Shangguan Yungu, Senior Margaret, I think. Margaret, go away. If you don't know how to speak, cut off your tongue. Shangguan Yungu, actually, I have an idea. Whether or not Uncle Master will go to Senior Margaret's world, we just need to compare the flow of time to our world. From Empress Dowager Qin's experience, we can conclude that if Uncle Master goes to that world, when he goes to the next world, the flow of time there will be faster. Senior Margaret, do you want to compare? Margaret, I don't think there's a need. Mo Yuntian, Yungu, you can't wake up a person who's always pretending to be asleep. You'd better hurry up and think of a way to get out of that weird, women-only mystic realm. Shangguan Yungu, Master, I'm trying. Guo, are you satisfied now? That kid's talent is not bad. Since you like him, then let's get engaged for now. No matter what, you're still my daughter. I can't really hold a Tao companion ceremony with a mere mystic immortal immediately. Your father and I aren't afraid of being laughed at by the immortal world. But the immortal world prioritizes strength. If he doesn't have the corresponding cultivation level to match, it won't be a good thing for him to become Tao companions with you now. So, when he becomes an immortal lord, I'll personally prepare a Tao companion ceremony for you too. Tanghua listened to all this in a daze. Her mood wasn't too good. She got engaged as soon as she arrived. Fortunately, she wasn't married yet. Then, if they got married in the future, it wouldn't be considered a second marriage, right? The voice just now was very gentle. She could even hear some kindness in it. So, she should have a pair of good parents in this world. Your father is doing this for your own good. Don't be unhappy. There are too many variables in the immortal world. This isn't just a test for him, it's also a test for you. If Guar doesn't like him one day, or if he does something bad, there's still room for redemption. You're still young, and don't know how sinister people can be. This was a very gentle female voice. It should be her body's mother. Hearing these two's words, because it was just an engagement, the original owner didn't seem too satisfied. Tangwa hurriedly glanced at the two of them and saw their expectant look. She knew that the original owner was not happy with this treatment, so she did not say anything and maintained her original expression. Tang Wanqing sighed. With our family Tang's resources, that day won't be long. This is the biggest concession I can make. Yunichin's talent was indeed not bad, and his character was tenacious. This was also the reason why Tang Wanqing did not completely oppose him. As long as this brat cultivated to the immortal monarch realm, his daughter would like him, and he would be willing to protect him as he grew up. In the future, he would personally hold a Dao Companion ceremony for them. Tangwa was instantly displeased. Who was this person who wanted to use her family's resources before they were even married? This face seemed to be very big. Without her memories, she didn't dare to express her true thoughts. Seeing the expectant look on their faces, she could only reluctantly say, "Understood." She noticed that Tang Wanqing and the beautiful woman beside him were smiling. Obviously, they were relieved. Tangwa could already feel that her body was filled with energy. This was a cultivation world, so her cultivation should be pretty good. In this body, her soul power did not need to be suppressed as much as in the previous world. This showed that the cultivation of this body was pretty good. Chapter 46-35. She could see the cultivation level of the couple in front of her at a glance. Their cultivation level was much higher than hers, but the couple didn't notice her abnormality. She was clearly occupying this body, so as cultivators, they should be able to notice the abnormality. However, they didn't seem to notice anything. This wasn't the first time she encountered such a situation. She had experienced many such situations, but she couldn't find the answer for now. Tangwa didn't think too much about it. After greeting the two of them, she said that she wanted to return to her room. Under the guidance of the system, she returned to her residence. Along the way, she could feel the rich, immortal energy. This feeling of power filling her body made her feel very comfortable. The scenery along the way was pretty good. Occasionally, she could see some spirit beasts that had gained intelligence. For example, fish playing in the pond and birds flying around in the air. I've already noticed it. Previously, the two of them had revealed that they would only be allowed to become Dao companions with Yun Ichen after he cultivated to the immortal monarch realm. Currently, the two of them were only engaged. She felt that the original owner's parents were really smart. Returning to the room, the furnishings inside were all treasures. The couple's cultivation level was very high, so their status in the immortal world was probably very high. There was a small pearl in the room. If she took it out, it would be a treasure that people would fight over. Tangwa sat down and started to receive the memories. Her identity in this world was one of the 8 great immortal emperors of the immortal world. She was the only daughter of Emperor Qing, Tang Wanqing. She could be considered as a second-generation immortal. Because her genes were too good, she was born in the mystic immortal realm. With the support of her identity, she could be considered a true genius. Her mother, Hanro, wasn't bad either. She was one of the best in the immortal monarch realm. She was just a little bit away from becoming an immortal emperor. With such an identity, even a fool would be able to live comfortably. Not to mention, she had inherited the talent of Tang Wanqing and his wife. Her personality was pure, and her heart was free of distractions. Her cultivation was twice the result with half the effort. In fact, she was only in her early 20s, but she was already a perfected golden immortal. Her cultivation speed was envied by others. The ranks of the immortal world were Earth Immortal, Heaven Immortal, Mystic Immortal, perfected immortal, perfected golden immortal, immortal monarch, and immortal emperor. It would take at least a few hundred years to advance a realm. She was only in her early 20s, but she had already advanced from Shin Immortal to Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. With such a background, she should have been smooth sailing. Unfortunately, one time she went out, she met the person who was destined to bring her disaster, Yunichin. Yunichin had ascended from the lower realm. His appearance was handsome, and his mannerisms were no worse than the second generation of immortals in the immortal world. As soon as he appeared, he attracted the attention of the original owner. Yunichin had a proud personality and was not the kind of person who liked to back down. After ascending to the celestial world, he had caused trouble. This person was very decisive and ruthless. As long as he was bullied, he would fight back with all his might. The impression he gave others was that he was a lunatic who didn't care about his life. When the original owner met Yunichin, it was him who had a conflict with someone else. Indeed, the other party was unreasonable and Yunichin couldn't tolerate it. Both parties fought and ended up with both sides suffering. After getting to know the original owner, Yunichin's life became much better. Gradually, the original owner fell in love with Yunichin. Later, the original owner and Yunichin got engaged. However, the original owner's parents didn't approve of them becoming Tao companions immediately. They only agreed to their engagement. If they wanted to become Tao companions, they would have to wait until Yunichin reached the immortal monarch realm. The original owner compromised. Yunichin also agreed. However, all the beautiful feelings were just the original owner's imagination. Chapter 46-36. Yunichin treated the original owner well because he wanted to borrow the original owner's protection. He had offended too many people in the immortal world, and there were also many people who wanted to kill him. He only had cultivation in his heart, becoming an immortal, attaining the Tao, and becoming a sage. As long as it was helpful for him to attain the Tao and become a sage, he would marry the original owner and become Tao companions. Although, he did not like the original owner. As long as the original owner did not affect his Tao, he did not mind treating the original owner well to obtain the family's resources for cultivation. Whether it was the original owner's family or the people of the immortal world, no one knew that Yunichin had a special experience. He was born in the lower realm and was not a proud son of heaven. Instead, he was a trash who could not cultivate. His parents despised him and called him useless. In the family, he was a trash that everyone could bully and humiliate. During his days in the family, he was humiliated, beaten, and scolded by the other people in the family every day because he was a trash who could not cultivate. His heart was filled with anger and despair. He did not have the talent for cultivation, so no matter how angry he was, he could not vent it. He could only silently endure and live like a dog. Until one of his adventures, he was not destined to die. He inadvertently obtained a cultivation technique and ushered in a different life. This cultivation technique was called the emotion severing technique. To cultivate this cultivation technique, one had to cut off all worldly feelings, family, love, and friendship. One could not be aroused. Once one was aroused, one's Tao heart would be shaken. With hope in front of him, Yunichin did not care about what he had to cut off. He only knew that this was his only chance to turn things around, so he did not hesitate to choose to cultivate. The first thing that the emotion-severing technique needed to sever was family ties. This was not difficult for Yunichin at all. Those who were related to him by blood wanted nothing more than for him to die. They did not treat him as a person at all. So what if he abandoned them? Everyone in the family thought that Yunichin was dead, but they did not know that he had a fortuitous encounter. Yunichin planned to cultivate first, as he did not want to go back and be humiliated by those people. Because there was no family in his heart, his cultivation speed was very fast. In just 5 short years, his cultivation had reached the middle level in the cultivation world. At least in his small family, no one could bully him. Thus, he decided to go back and end this relationship. In one night, he slaughtered everyone in his family, including those who were related to him by blood. No one in the Yun family was left alive. Of course, he was also seriously injured. After all, he was not considered a top expert. After exterminating the Yun family, he ran into the wilderness and finally fainted. At this time, a person appeared beside him. This person was the female lead of this world, Wei Xian. Wei Xian picked up Yun and brought him back. Seeing that he was heavily injured and almost lost his life, he carefully treated his injuries. When Yun woke up, he was still very vigilant. At first, he planned to kill Wei Xian to silence him. However, under Wei Xian's careful care, he gradually let down his guard. Not only did he lower his guard, he even had a good impression of Wei Xian. Wei Xian's gentleness moved his heart. Naturally, he married Wei Xian. The two of them loved each other for 10 years like an immortal couple. Yunichin's cultivation was also constantly increasing and breaking through. Finally, he was only one step away from becoming an immortal and ascending. However, this step was difficult for him. This was because he was facing the second stage of the emotion-severing technique, which was to cut off his love. Only by cutting off his love could he become an immortal and ascend. Otherwise, he would never be able to ascend and could only spend the rest of his life in the mortal world. Yunichin walked this step for many years before finally deciding to cut off his relationship with Wei Xian. The peak. Chapter 46-37. In the beginning, he decided to stay away from Wei Xian for a few years. However, he still couldn't break through and ascend. Only then did he know that only with Wei Xian's death could he truly sever his ties with her. After hesitating for a while, he still made the same decision. He couldn't give up on the path of immortality and had to sever his ties with Wei Xian. Perhaps because he felt guilty, he returned to Wei Xian's side and said that he had mistakenly entered the secret realm. Because of his gentleness, Wei Xian didn't question this. He and Wei Xian had been in love for 20 years. When he felt that it was about time, he brought Wei Xian to the place where they first met. However, he didn't know that Wei Xian was pregnant. He killed Wei Xian with one sword and buried her in the cave where he obtained the severing emotions technique. After severing his ties with Wei Xian, he indeed instantly felt the pull from the immortal world and ascended. However, he didn't know that the cave where he buried Wei Xian still had a thread of life. That thread of life saved Wei Xian's life. Not long after he ascended, Wei Xian revived and the child in her womb was saved. Wei Xian lost her memories. Perhaps she subconsciously didn't dare to believe that her husband, who had been in love with her for so many years, would kill her without hesitation in order to ascend. Yun ascended to the immortal world and started a new life. Wei Xian, who had lost her memories in the lower realm, knew that she was pregnant and planned to give birth to the child. However, because her life had been severed and she revived, the child shouldn't be saved. However, she subconsciously didn't want to lose the child. The thread of life in the cave protected her child. However, if she wanted to give birth to the child, it would take a long time. It might take a few years, decades, or centuries for the child to be born in her womb. Wei Xian didn't want to abort the child, so she cultivated with the child. On the day she ascended to the immortal world, she actually used the power of the immortal pool to fully gestate the child and give birth to the child. This matter became a miracle in the world of immortals. When Wei Xian ascended to the immortal world, Yunichin was already in the golden immortal realm. He was one step away from the immortal monarch realm and would become Tao companions with the original owner. When he stepped into the immortal monarch realm and was about to become Tao companions with the original owner of the body, he met Wei Xian in the immortal world. The moment he saw Wei Xian, all he wanted to do was kill him. Wei Xian's appearance had shaken his Tao heart. Later on, he realized that Wei Xian didn't recognize him. Out of curiosity, he followed him and realized that there was a child beside Wei Xian. This child looked very much like him when he was young. Yunichin understood from the child's bloodline that this was his child. He wanted to kill the mother and son pair, but he couldn't find any opportunity to do so. Just when he was hesitating, the mother and son were in danger, and he saved them without hesitation. When they met again, Yunichin's Tao heart was completely messed up. Especially the kindness from the mother and son, he was completely unable to do anything. He even had to constantly protect them and help them resolve all kinds of dangers. He didn't plan to kill them, but accidents happened again. Of course, Wei Xian had many suitors. One of them was about to move Wei Xian. When Yunqin found out, he couldn't accept it at all. Hence, he decided to kill that suitor. The other party didn't die, but was seriously injured. When Wei Xian found out, she naturally felt that he was unreasonable and wanted to chase him away. Yunqin seemed to have gone crazy. As long as someone appeared beside Wei Xian, he would beat that person up. Peak. Chapter 46-38. Wei Xian couldn't take it at all. Why did he have to pester her time and time again when he had a fiancée? Couldn't he just let her go? In a moment of desperation, Yunqin said that he was the father of Wei Xian's child. This was incredible. Wei Xian's memory actually recovered. This time, Yunqin couldn't see the gentle Wei Xian anymore. Instead, he saw a pair of eyes filled with hatred. Yunqin didn't like this gaze. In his impression, Wei Xian wasn't like this. He knew that he should kill Wei Xian, but he couldn't do it now. Of course, Wei Xian couldn't accept Yunqin, the person who killed her with his own hands. However, she couldn't beat Yunqin, so she could only tell Yunqin that their relationship was broken and they couldn't go back to the past. He should pursue his immortal path instead of pestering her. Yunqin had caused such a huge commotion, so the original owner naturally knew about it. However, she didn't know that Wei Xian and Yunqin were once husband and wife. That child was Yunqin's. She only thought that Yunqin liked a woman with a child. She wanted to see Wei Xian. Wei Xian expressed that she didn't have any thoughts about Yunqin. She even said that she wanted to get rid of Yunqin. Yunqin kept pestering her, which made her very vexed. The original owner saw that Wei Xian really didn't want to pester Yunqin, so she wanted to help Wei Xian escape from Yunqin's sight. She was the daughter of Emperor Qing, so she could still do this. Under her operation, she really sent Wei Xian far away. Yunqin couldn't find her. When Wei Xian disappeared, Yunqin was naturally anxious. He investigated the original owner and asked her to hand over Wei Xian, thinking that she was going to harm Wei Xian. The original owner wasn't afraid of anything. She didn't know that Yunqin was a lunatic. Yunqin saw that he couldn't get anything out of her, so he directly beat up the original owner of the body and searched her soul. He felt that she was a hindrance, so he crippled her cultivation and went to find Wei Xian. Anyone who cultivated would know that after a person's soul was searched, they would become mentally retarded, almost crippled. His cultivation had also been crippled by Yunqin. From this, it was clear that there was no way for him to recover. He only had 100 years left to live. When the Qing Supreme the Arch and his wife found out about this, they were naturally enraged. They issued an order to kill Yunqin. Yunqin had indeed fled in an extremely sorry state. In the end, he still managed to escape to Wei Xian's side. He expressed that he could give up on cultivating and was willing to use the rest of his life to compensate Wei Xian. However, what awaited him was Wei Xian's merciless sword that pierced his heart. However, Yunqin wasn't willing to die like this. He used a secret technique and planned to return to the past and start over with Wei Xian. Wei Xian seemed to have sensed it. At that moment, he also used a blood curse, indicating that he couldn't be together with Yunqin for the rest of his life. In the end, they encountered the same thing for the rest of their lives. The original owner of the body, who was an innocent second-generation immortal, also had the same ending every time. This Wei Xian's temper is really fierce. When she saw that Wei Xian didn't die, Tanghua thought that she might get back together with Yunqin in the future. At that time, she would chase him to the crematorium and then clear her name. However, the result was different from what she thought. Wei Xian didn't want to forgive the scumbag. She would rather have the same ending for the rest of her life than be together with the scumbag. Actually, it's easy to solve. Tanghua laughed. It made the system's hair stand on end. As long as his soul is destroyed, how can he live for the rest of his life? Tongzi, don't you think so? It's just that destroying his soul is a bit too easy for him. Is there a better way? Top point. Chapter 46-39. After reading through all the memories, Tanghua went to the group. She scrolled through the records and appeared. Everyone, I've arrived in a new world. It's not a magical world, is it? The school bell didn't look for me immediately, and I didn't feel time passing faster here. It's a cultivation world. I'm a second-generation immortal now, and I have a lot of treasures. When I have time, I'll organize them and send you some specialties. I've already gotten used to it. It's okay. I can still wait. School bell, tell me the story of that world. Margaret, have you gotten used to life and death? What can I do if I don't? The God of creation never opens the door, and the school bell can't find the way even if she wants to. After Tangwa finished telling everyone the story, she left the group and returned to reality. She organized the things in her room, found some specialties of the celestial world, and sent them to the group. Then, she began to calculate the time. It hadn't been long since Yunichin ascended to the celestial world. Because he was able to ascend because he severed his love, he had a lot of stamina. In a short time, he advanced from the earth immortal realm to the mystic immortal realm. In the eyes of the people in the celestial world, this kind of cultivation speed was already very talented. According to the original development, when the original owner and Yunichin got engaged at this time, in addition to the cultivation resources given by the family Tang, the original owner would also give Yunichin all kinds of cultivation resources and treasures from time to time. Perhaps because he was bullied badly when he was young, Yunichin had a strong desire for power. As long as it could make him stronger, he would not refuse it. As for the face of taking a woman's things, he didn't care about it. From the memories that Tang was sorted out, the original owner didn't know how many resources Yunichin had given. Now that it was her, of course, she couldn't give him any more resources. How many resources Yunichin could get would depend on his own cultivation performance. Because of the follow-up development, she couldn't suddenly hate Yunichin and bully him for no reason, so as not to ruin her parents' reputation. In the world of immortals, there was also the concept of public opinion. If she bullied Yunichin and teased him when she was in the wrong, her parents' opponents would most likely create some public opinion, saying that Emperor Qing bullied and teased the young man who had just ascended. The Azure the Arch might not care about this. After all, he was very powerful and one of the 8 thearchs of the celestial world. However, Tangua would feel aggrieved if she was given such a bad reputation for no reason. Therefore, it was better to let things continue to develop. When the time came, Yunichin's true colors would be revealed. Yunichin was heartless, selfish, and cold-hearted. No matter if it was someone as gentle as water like Wei Xian, or someone as pure as the original host, he couldn't be moved. I heard from the maids that Gua has been in the room all day and hasn't gone to look for Yi-Chin. This is really rare. Tangua didn't go out to look for Yunichin, but Hanro was worried. She thought that Tangua was sulking in the room, so she came to take a look. Seeing that Tangua's expression didn't change, she was relieved. Yi-Chin's talent is not bad. It won't take long for the two of you to officially become Dao companions. In the world of immortals, there are countless people who get engaged first and only become Dao companions after hundreds or thousands of years. Now that you don't understand, it's not a bad thing to take this opportunity to understand. Hanro thought that Tangua didn't go out because of this. Tangua stood up and hugged Hanro's arm. Mother, you're right. I've thought it through. You've really thought it through? Hanro didn't believe it. Her daughter had been spoiled since she was young. It would be strange if she wasn't angry for half a month. Peak. Chapter 4640. Tangua tried her best to persuade Hanro. Finally, Hanro believed that she didn't mind and was relieved. It's good that you understand. Now that you're engaged, you can spend more time with each other and see if this person is suitable. Hanro was actually not very satisfied with Yunichin. Although he was talented and obedient to Tangua, he rarely rejected her requests. She felt that it wasn't love. She didn't insist on this aspect. If they spent more time together, they might have feelings for each other. If they really didn't have feelings for each other in the end, there would be so many variables. She didn't have to marry her daughter to him. Hanro didn't stay for long. Seeing that Tangua wasn't angry anymore, she left. In the celestial world, the most important thing was still strength. Hanro had been stuck in the immortal Lord realm for many years. She was only one step away from the immortal Emperor realm. However, she couldn't take this step no matter what. This was also why there were only 8 immortal emperors since the birth of the celestial world. There were countless immortal lords, and their strength varied. For a veteran immortal lord like Han-Ro, it was easy for her to defeat 10 of them. Those newly advanced immortal lords might not even be able to survive one move in her hands. She had to go back and comprehend, and strive to advance to the immortal Emperor realm as soon as possible. After Han-Ro left, Tanghua also began to cultivate. There was nothing to do now. Yuni-chin was cultivating, and Wei-Xian in the lower realm was probably also resurrected and cultivating with the child. She was currently in the golden immortal realm, and she was still far from the immortal lord realm. It was better to cultivate first. Tanghua first cultivated casually for 2 days. Then, she told the maid that she had some enlightenment and planned to go into seclusion. After Tang Wanqing heard about this, he was a little surprised. Seclusion? That's rare. It seems that she really had an epiphany. That's good. She doesn't have to spend all her time on Yuni-chin. I feel that Yuni-chin is a little cold to Guo. Han-Ro's face was full of worry. Brother Qing, this matter still needs to be discussed. Do you think I can't see it? Otherwise, why would I only let them get engaged? Yuni-chin is talented, but he doesn't care that much about Guo. Only Guo likes him wholeheartedly. That's why I didn't object too much and used the engagement to appease her. Even if Yuni-chin was talented, it would still take him many years to reach the immortal monarch realm. After so many years, it was enough for Guo to see what kind of person he was. Guo is my daughter. If you don't want to become Dao companions with him in the future, you can just break off the marriage. Tang Wanqing said domineeringly. From the beginning, he didn't have much hope for Yuni-chin. He just didn't want to have a conflict with his daughter. At that time, that girl's mind would be muddled and she would run away with Yuni-chin. His intestines would turn green. He might as well admit it on the surface and appease her. Hundreds of years, thousands of years, there were many variables in between. In the future, his daughter might not like Yuni-chin anymore. Tang Wanqing and Han-Ro's plan was indeed good. However, they never expected that Yuni-chin was a heartless person who would directly hurt their daughter in the future. Xiao Guo is in seclusion? Yuni-chin was stunned when he heard the news. Ever since he met Tanghua, she would hang around him every day. Of course, when he was cultivating seriously, she wouldn't disturb him when he was in seclusion. However, she would always prepare some food and wait outside for him to come out. Sometimes, she would wait for many days. He was a little used to seeing her waiting outside every time he came out. There were many reasons why he was willing to interact with Tanghua. Peak. Chapter 46-41. Firstly, she was the Lotus Thearcha's daughter. Secondly, he had confirmed that he would not develop any feelings for her. To be able to obtain the Lotus Thearcha's protection and the corresponding resources to cultivate without wavering his Dao heart, this was a win-win deal for Yuni-chin. As for Wei-Xian, ever since he killed him, he had deliberately forgotten this memory. His Dao heart was very firm. There was nothing more important than cultivating and becoming stronger. Miss said that she has some enlightenment recently and needs to cultivate in seclusion. Yuni-chin understood. This was related to cultivation, and no one would not take it seriously. Got it. Since Tanghua did not come to disturb him, he could also have some peace and not have to deal with her. After taking the resources, Yuni-chin continued to cultivate. He planned to go out and train after a period of time. It would be beneficial for improving his cultivation level. Tanghua went into seclusion for 20 years. She was a second-generation immortal and had the best genes. She also had her own experiences and the best insights. Therefore, after 20 years of seclusion, Tanghua had already advanced to the immortal lord realm. There were no heaven and earth anomalies when she advanced to the immortal lord realm. There should be some movement, but the seclusion room she was in was built by the Lotus Thearch with a heavenly spiritual treasure. No matter what happened inside, unless the seclusion room was destroyed, no one outside would be able to sense the movement inside. Actually, Tanghua could still continue to cultivate. To her, there was no bottleneck at all. If she cultivated to the immortal lord realm in one go, she felt that she might be surrounded and attract attention. Moreover, she did not plan to advance to the immortal lord realm at home. There were too many heaven and earth anomalies when one advanced to the immortal lord realm. At that time, Not only would the people of the immortal world know, but Yun Ichin would also know. At that time, Yun Ichin would be angry and would not do anything to her. If he could not do anything to her, then she could not find an excuse to deal with him openly. Secretly killing Yun Ichin would be too easy for him. It would not be enough to vent her anger. The matter of Tang Guo advancing to the Immortal Lord Realm could not be hidden from Tang Wanqing. Tang Wanqing was at the Immortal Lord Realm. When Tang Guo appeared in front of him, he instantly felt that something was wrong. He stood up and walked in front of Tang Guo with a face full of surprise. "Guo, you advanced? Immortal Lord Realm?" Tang Wanqing naturally felt that Tang Guo was now in Immortal Lord Realm, but he was a little incredulous. "Was still far away?" Tang Guo replied, "That's right, father. Last time, I had some enlightenment. I didn't expect that I would accidentally become an Immortal Lord." Guo, Immortal Lord Realm. If the people outside knew about this, they would probably die of anger. Your mother also had some enlightenment. She has been in seclusion for more than 10 years. It was very normal for an immortal lord to go into seclusion to comprehend. From an immortal lord realm to an immortal lord realm, one could not just casually comprehend and advance. Tang Wanqing suddenly thought of something. "You didn't go to see Yun Ichin, right?" His daughter was not so interested in Yun Ichin, but Tang Wanqing was actually happy. He did not feel that there was anything wrong with his daughter liking anyone, but he did not agree. He was wholeheartedly focused on that person. "Father, how do you know? Advancing is such a big matter. Of course, I have to share it with father and mother first. I will look for brother Ichin later." Chapter 46-42. "I'm afraid you won't be able to find him." Ichin went out to train. Tang Wanqing didn't want to say it, but it was useless. His daughter would know soon. Tang Wen knew, but she still pretended to be surprised. "Father, when did brother Ichin go out to train? I was planning to go with him. Why didn't he wait for me?" "You were in seclusion, so he couldn't disturb you. It's a good thing to go out to train when you've reached a bottleneck. Don't worry, I've arranged 2 people for him. They're both Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. There won't be any danger." "Oh, that's good." Tang Guo was actually not very happy. How could he be so kind as to arrange 2 bodyguards for her? "Father, I also want to go and gain experience. I want to see if I can meet brother Ichin." Tang Wanqing didn't stop her. It was as if he had expected this. He was about to say that he would arrange 2 bodyguards for Tang Guo when he suddenly remembered that she was already a Monarch Heaven Golden Immortal. Before he could say anything, Tang Guo said, "I won't bring anyone this time. With my current strength, I won't be able to escape from you 8 great immortal emperors. It's still easy for me to escape from other monarchs." Tang Wanqing thought the same. However, he still picked out many life-saving treasures from the warehouse and stuffed them into Tang Guo's hands. He insisted that she refine these things before she could leave. Tang Guo didn't refuse. She was very willing to accept the kindness of her father. The reason why Yun Ichin could injure the original owner was that she wasn't prepared. She didn't believe that Yun Ichin would hurt her. Not only did she not have time to fight back, but she also didn't use the treasures on her. At that time, they were both Monarch Heaven Golden Immortals. If they really fought, the original owner's treasures would have killed him. Not to mention, the original owner wasn't weak. It was just that she couldn't escape from love. After Tang Guo refined all the treasures, Tang Wanqing finally let her go. As for the fact that Tang Guo had already advanced to the Immortal Monarch realm, Tang Wanqing didn't announce it. He also told Tang Guo not to announce it casually. Tang Guo also had the same intention. Under Tang Wanqing's reluctant gaze, she went out to train by herself. Tang Wanqing still wanted her to bring him along, but she found it troublesome and didn't want to. It was mainly because she had brought someone along, so it was not convenient for her to do things. This time, she wasn't really going out to train. She was going to see Wei Xian. In this world, it was possible for the immortal realm to descend to the mortal realm. However, it was more difficult to open a space. Generally, no one would do such a thankless task. Tang Guo wanted to see Wei Xian mainly because she wanted him to cultivate faster and come to the immortal world earlier to get rid of that trash. Yun Ichin. Tangwa found a relatively desolate place. The immortal chi in this place was thin, and immortals did not like to wander around here. Then, she began to set up a formation. She had countless treasures in her possession, so it would not be a problem for her to use them to support the passageway to the lower realm. The second generation of immortals is not bad. Just setting up the array took Tangwa half a month. The moment the array was activated, she felt a suction force from the tunnel. She first put on a magic treasure and then covered herself with a layer of immortal energy before jumping into the passageway. Indeed, there was a strong pressure in the space. Even though she had the body of an immortal, she could feel that the power was constantly trying to tear her body apart. She was well prepared, so nothing happened. However, after exiting the tunnel, she was covered in dust. She didn't look like an immortal descending to the mortal realm. Peak. Hearing Tangwa's question, the man was silent for a moment before answering, I used to be? It's been a long time since I returned to the immortal world. Tangwa was not interested in other people's stories. She found a place to sit down and said, I'm sorry. I thought there was no one there, so I moved just now. I know. Fellow immortal, you don't have any ill intentions. Fellow immortal, you're full of treasures, so you don't need this place. The corners of Tangwa's mouth twitched. What was that supposed to mean? Fellow immortal, why have you come here? That person might have been lonely for many years and didn't have anyone to talk to. Seeing that someone had suddenly come, he finally had someone to talk to and wanted to chat with Tangwa. Tangwa saw that Wei Xian didn't have any intention of coming back for the time being. Since he wanted to chat, then let's chat. I'm here to find someone. Tangwa didn't hide anything. She lives here. You should know her, Wei Xian. That voice fell silent again. Does Wei Xian have any grudges with fellow immortal? No, she has some fate with me. I see. She's a pitiful person. That voice sighed. Perhaps fellow immortal can undo the shackles of her fate. When Tangwa heard that, she understood that this person's realm should be very high and he might know something. Top point. Chapter 46-44. What shackles of destiny? Tangwa asked. That person was silent for a while before saying, since fellow immortal is here, you must have some understanding of it. When Tangwa heard this, she laughed. It seems that I can't hide anything from you. Yes, I did come for this matter. Since you can calculate all this, you must be very powerful, right? I don't know why you didn't stay in the immortal world and stayed in the mortal world. Fellow immortal, are you staying here because of the shackles of destiny? Tangwa guessed this because the other party knew too much. She really didn't believe that such a powerful person would help Wei Xian so many times out of sympathy. From what the other party said, he hoped that she could really resolve this dispute of destiny. Fellow immortal, do you know someone called Yunichin? The voice asked. Tangwa didn't hide it. I do. What's your relationship with this person? There's no special relationship. We're considered neighbors. At this point, he introduced himself. My name is Jiang Zilin. Tangwa tried to recall this name in her mind, but couldn't find anything related to this name for the time being. It could be some unknown hermit expert, or it could be that too much time had passed, and there were no legends of him in the immortal world. Yunichin's encounter wasn't a coincidence. Jiang Zilin didn't let Tangwa wait for too long and continued, Yunichin's encounter should be due to a scheme. It's not easy to calculate the details, but this person's existence was indeed to scheme against me. Scheme against you? Tangwa was shocked. She originally thought that it was a simple story of killing one's wife for the sake of cultivation, but now it seemed that it wasn't so simple. Yes, he was scheming against me. He wanted to scheme against my inheritance. Jiang Zilin paused for a while and said 4 words that shocked Tangwa. The inheritance of becoming a sage. The inheritance of becoming a sage? As a second-generation immortal, Tangwa naturally knew what this meant. It meant that the person who obtained the inheritance of becoming a sage would have a greatly increased chance of becoming a sage. Desolate Book Room. It was said that many years ago, after the great calamity of heaven and earth, the sages had all fallen to protect this world. If it weren't for the sacrifice of those saints, this world would have long ceased to exist. Aren't you afraid that if I find out about such an important matter, I'll also scheme against you for the inheritance of becoming a saint? Is fellow immortal interested in this? I can give you one if you want. Tangua's heart was very subtle. Are you joking? The inheritance of becoming a saint was not something that could be given away so easily. If those people who were scheming were to find out about this, they would be angered to death. I'm not joking. Zhang Zilin's voice was serious and solemn. If you need it, I can give it to you now. Tangua refused. Not for the time being. Let's make things clear first. Fellow immortal, there's no need to be afraid. You and I are fated to be together. Sooner or later, I'll have to give it to you. Tangua felt that the conversation was getting more and more out of hand. What did he mean by sooner or later? She had an idea in her mind. You want to take me as your disciple? No, that's not what I meant. Zhang Zilin hurriedly said. There was a hint of panic in his tone, as if he was afraid that Tangua would misunderstand. There is no fate between us. Then you said that we are fated to be together? Could it be that this is the fate of becoming a sage? If I accept your inheritance, then wouldn't it be the inheritance of becoming a master and disciple? This can also not be a master and disciple. Zhang Zilin's stammering voice made Tangua feel that this reclusive expert was being a little wishy-washy. They were just chatting nicely. Why did the atmosphere suddenly change? Peak. Chapter 46-45. Fellow immortal, let's get down to business. Tangua. All right then, let's continue the topic from before. You said that Yunichin is scheming against your Saint Ascension inheritance, and also the fate entanglement between him and Wei Xian. You want me to resolve all of this? What is going on? According to my calculations, Yunichin should be a clone of someone in the immortal world. As for who it is, I haven't been able to deduce it yet, because the other party used some methods and the immortal world is too far away from here. It's not easy to deduce. Also, my current abilities are a bit limited. Zhang Zilin said. However, the other party pulled out a rock and smashed it on his own foot. The entanglement between Yunichin and Wei Xian is the biggest failure. Even that person has no way to resolve this fate entanglement. Because the place I'm currently living in is special. It's a restriction that I set up when I was at my peak. It can isolate many things and form a world of its own. Therefore, I'm not bound by the shackles of fate. Tangua understood. What you mean is that even if the outside world reverses time and everything is refold, you won't be affected here, right? That's right. Zhang Zilin was a bit happy. It was good to chat with smart people. They understood with just a little bit. That person split off Yunichin to become a sage. I don't know where he got the emotion-severing art from, but he let a part of him cultivate in the mortal world. Xian Chung said, when Yunichin was reincarnated in the mortal world, that person should have known some things about the sage inheritance and even accurately found the location of this cave. However, how could a mere immortal like him break through the restrictions here? When he was breaking the restriction, I severely injured him. Then, he left unwillingly and purposely left the emotion-severing art in the cave, making me think that he gave up. The emotion-severing art is a cultivation technique that goes against the laws of heaven and earth. Even if one can cultivate to the immortal emperor realm and step into the sage realm, they will be broken down by heaven and earth and disappear. However, most people can't cultivate to this stage and will die midway due to various reasons. After that, Yunichin went through a lot and came to the cave to find the emotion-severing manual. Fortunately, I'm the one living here. If it were those old men in the past, seeing Yunichin's tenacity, they would most likely have taken him in as their successor. Zhang Zilin said this with a hint of complacency. I didn't care about him. I just watched him quietly from the side. Tangua's head was filled with black lines. Logically speaking, saints should be old monsters. How could this person be serious one moment and not be serious the next? Tangua felt that Zhang Zilin was right. Normally, if a reclusive expert met a useless cultivator like Yunichin who was unwilling to give up, he would definitely feel that it was a pity. If he had the ability, he would give him a hand and see what kind of luck he had. Unfortunately, that person did not expect that Jiang Zeline was indifferent to all of this. Later, I felt that my decision was very correct. After Yun Yiqin succeeded in his cultivation, he actually went back and killed everyone in his family, regardless of their identities. Jiang Zeline even dared to sigh. I think that Yun Yiqin's real body is not a good person. If the inheritance of becoming a sage fell into his hands, it would not be a good thing. It would be a disaster for the immortal world. Tanghua understood what Jiang Zeline meant. In a small family like the Yun family, there were many people who were not good to Yun Yiqin. However, there were also many people who had no grudges with Yun Yiqin. Many of them were even like Yun Yiqin, struggling to survive. Peak. Chapter 46-46. On the path of cultivation, other than those favored by the heavens and those favored by the heavens, no one had an easy time. Yun Yiqin could have killed all the people who had humiliated him, but he didn't let any of them off. This made him seem really heartless. Later on, Yun Yiqin actually married a woman. Jiang Zeline continued. I felt that something was amiss. After some calculations, I indeed discovered that the bond between this woman and Yun Yiqin was somewhat strange. It was as if someone had deliberately tied the two of them together. At first, I thought that that person had created a love tribulation for Yun Yiqin. This way, after he severed the love tribulation in the future, his cultivation level would increase very quickly. As time passed, Yun Yiqin brought that woman to the cave to kill her. At that time, I guessed what the person behind this was planning. That person wanted me to open the restriction and didn't hesitate to sacrifice an innocent woman and the child in her womb. Otherwise, why would Yun Yiqin bury Wei Xian above the restriction? At that time, the blood had dripped onto the restriction. That person probably thought that I wouldn't leave her in the lurch and let Wei Xian die in front of me. Wei Xian's talent was also top-notch. Perhaps after I saved her, I might even pass on my inheritance to her. The child in her womb was Yun Yiqin, so it was also considered his. Wei Xian was Yun Yiqin's former wife, so she was also considered his wife. It was really a good scheme. Tanghua also felt that that person was indeed very scheming and vicious. However, he didn't expect that although I saved Wei Xian, I didn't show up, nor did I pass on my inheritance to her. I didn't even give her any treasures or cultivation techniques. When Jiang Zeline said this, the self-satisfaction in his tone couldn't be concealed. Wei Xian's talent was not bad, and she also had a temperament. She didn't need my help at all. As long as her life was preserved, it was only a matter of time before she soared into the sky. Why would she need my help? Moreover, I wasn't fated to be with her. She even drenched my restrictions in blood. It's already good enough that she's not angry. How can I give her an inheritance? Tanghua felt that Jiang Zeline's style was really fickle. One moment, he felt that Wei Xian was pitiful, and the next moment, he felt that Wei Xian was troublesome. He even had a little misophobia. The person behind this has miscalculated several times in a row. Coupled with his serious injuries, he has no intention of coming to this place. One thing I didn't expect was that Yun Yiqin and Wei Xian would be entangled with each other for life. In the end, that person had to do the same thing in front of me every life. When Jiang Zeline mentioned this, he was grinding his teeth. In this life, I was ruthless. If he didn't have a life-saving technique, he might have died. It's a pity that I couldn't kill him directly. When Tanghua heard this, she couldn't help but laugh. That's right. Since Wei Xian needs your help to revive, why didn't you just stop saving Wei Xian when you knew about their fated entanglement? Tanghua was only making a guess. In this way, can Wei Xian reincarnate directly and not be entangled with Yun Yiqin? You must be joking. Since it's a fated entanglement for life, how can it be changed if I don't save him? Fated entanglement is very powerful. To be honest, I've done this before, but unfortunately, it was useless. If I don't save Wei Xian, fate will arrange for someone else to save him. In short, if the shackles of fate are not removed, Wei Xian will be saved by someone eventually. He won't die completely. Then what does fellow immortal plan to do now? He should have a motive for telling her so much. Apex. Chapter 46-47. Fellow immortal, can you do me a favor? Tangua, tell me about it first. I've long predicted that you would come. Actually, I've been waiting for you. Zhang Zilin said. Back then, countless sages sacrificed themselves. Actually, they all kept their inheritances and left them with me. At that time, I had just become a sage and was considered to be one of the more talented ones. Those old men unanimously believed that I could complete this task and did not hesitate to seal me here. In order to let me escape the great calamity of the world, they even dismantled me. Tangua hesitated. Dismantled? It means dismantling the bones and burying them. However, this can be recovered for sages. It just needs some time. Zhang Zilin said. They were afraid that things would change, so they left their inheritances in my hands. They hoped that one day, these inheritances could be delivered to their descendants. Then how can I help you? I'll open the restriction first. Then, you can come in and help me open the seal. You just have to put my bones back together. Zhang Zilin said very casually. Then, Tangua felt the restriction being opened. She quickly jumped in. After she went in, the barrier closed again. The place where Tangua appeared was like a palace. It wasn't as magnificent as she had imagined. Instead, it was filled with mysteries. She felt as if she was in a very special world, and her connection with the outside world seemed to have been cut off. This place has already become a world of its own. Zhang Lin's voice rang in her ears. Take 7 steps forward and you'll see a white jade cauldron. Tangua followed Zhang Zilin's instructions and took 7 steps forward. Indeed, she saw a white jade cauldron. Take the cauldron away. My bones are buried under it. Tangua moved the cauldron away. She did not dig it up for the time being. Instead, she said, You're not tricking me? I won't trick you. Zhang Zilin said, Don't worry and dig. If you don't believe me, when you dig up the bones, you can drip your blood on it to form a contract. Then, I won't be able to harm you. Tangua knew this saying. After forming a blood contract, the owner of the bones would not be able to harm her. However, was this person a little crazy after being buried underground for so long that he was willing to do such a thing? Although it was only a blood contract, most people would not allow someone to do so. How old were you when you became a saint? Do you have any experience in the martial arts world? Zhang Zilin said, Fellow immortal, you don't have to doubt me. I'm not that stupid. The reason why you're doing this is because you're different. Tangua was curious. How am I different? Oh, you said that we were fated to be together. Could it be because of this? More or less, Zhang Zilin added when he saw that Tangua was not moving. Immortal friend, can you move now? Tangua squatted down again and fiddled with the transparent crystal-like bones. She asked, What are you going to do after we get out? Follow you to the immortal world. What about after you go to the immortal world? Tangua asked. Didn't you say that those seniors wanted you to help them pass the inheritance to their descendants? Aren't you going to do these things? I have to do it, Zhang Zilin answered. But it's not that easy to get the inheritance. When I recover, I'll set a test for them. Whether they can get it depends on their understanding and temperament. This is what those old men said. They can't give it away for free. Do you still have a recovery period? My flesh is gone. I need time to recover and let my flesh grow back. Zhang Zilin said, During this time, I'll follow you. Peek. Chapter 46-49. Tangua, what can you do by following me? I don't keep idle people. You can't take advantage of me just because we're fated to be married. Zhang Zilin seemed to be thinking. The skull kept emitting a beautiful white light. Although I can't regrow my flesh for now, no one in the celestial world should be my match. If someone bullies you, I can help you fight back. Is that so? Tangua seemed to be hesitating. Zhang Zilin became nervous. That's fine. Then it's settled. Okay. Zhang Zilin's skull swayed around Tangua while she was piecing the bones together. She could hear that he was very excited. He even deliberately controlled his emotions to appear more stable. Did you come here specifically to find Wei Xian? Jiang Zilin tried to find a topic. Tanghua, yes? Then how do you plan to solve this? Although he knew that Tanghua could solve the shackles of fate, Jiang Zilin was still a little curious. Yunichin and I have a grudge. In the future, he will severely injure me for Wei Xian. Then, he will search my soul and destroy my cultivation. Tanghua previously thought that Yunichin was a heartless person. Now that she heard Jiang Zilin's words, she felt that Yunichin himself was probably such a person. It wasn't strange. Jiang Zilin was right. If such a person obtained the sage inheritance, it would be a disaster for the entire celestial world. When Jiang Zilin heard this, he was very shocked and also a little angry. This person is indeed unscrupulous. Fortunately, I didn't fall for it. If I foolishly gave the sage inheritance to him, I don't know what would happen in the future. He wasn't shocked that Tanghua knew about the future. Since she came here, it wasn't strange that she knew about the future. She must have grasped some opportunity. Back then, those old men also had great foresight. They must have calculated that they couldn't avoid Yunichin's scheme, so they let him stay. That was very likely. According to those old men's nature, they would most likely fall for Yunichin's trick. All right, do you think this will work? After Tanghua finished piecing together Jiang Zilin's bones, she also took a few more glances. Although it was just a set of bones, because it was the bones of a saint, it was really very beautiful. It emitted a bright white light on the ground, which made people know at a glance that it was a treasure. If someone were to pick up a saint's bone and use it to refine a powerful artifact, it would definitely be very powerful. Jiang Zilin only felt that his bones were a little cold. Perhaps it was because he had not been pieced together for too long. His skull flew over and landed on the skeleton. He controlled the skull to fly to the ground and reminded Tanghua, "It's a little dazzling later." Tanghua understood. Was he asking her to protect her eyes? When Jiang Zilin's skull landed in its original position, a strong light was emitted. As Tanghua was prepared, this strong light did not cause any irritation to her eyes. The strong white light made it impossible for Tanghua to see clearly what had happened to Jiang Zilin, but she heard the sound of bones cracking. After a while, the white light disappeared, and a set of crystal-like bones stood in front of Tanghua. The outside was even more lustrous than before. In the blink of an eye, there was an extra set of clothes on this set of bones. It was a white robe. If one didn't look at the front, they would really think that this was an elegant young master. She also saw a hairband hanging on Jiang Zilin's bones. Then, she heard Jiang Zilin muttering, "I forgot that I don't need the hairband for now." Tanghua, top point. Chapter 4650. System. Host. This guy is such a prick. He just came out and he wants to wear nice clothes and tie a hairband. Did he forget that he's just a skeleton? Look at his shiny head. It's so funny. Tanghua. He's a little shameless. Jiang Zilin put away the hairband. Tanghua happened to see that there were a few rings on his hand. There were all kinds of rings, and they were especially beautiful. They were even glowing like gems. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. This set of bones was not ordinary. Jiang Zilin, do you want to wear a cloak? You won't scare people like this, but you'll definitely make many people think that you're a treasure. When the time comes, they'll come to snatch you. Tanghua reminded him, pass on a cloak and a mask. Jiang Zilin didn't refuse. You reminded me. That's how it should be. My bones are too beautiful. If I go out, I'm afraid that everyone will covet me. It'll be very troublesome. System. Narcissist. Jiang Zilin found a cloak and hung it on his body. The hood of the cloak covered his bald and shiny skull. He also took out a mask and covered his skull. Then, he used a little trick to make his body bulge a little. If one only looked at the surface, they would only think that this person was very mysterious. They wouldn't suspect that the person under the cloak was a skeleton. How about this? Jiang Zilin asked. He even walked in circles in front of Tanghua. From his actions, it seemed that he was very satisfied with his appearance. Tanghua, pretty good. Jiang Zilin was satisfied. He formed a seal. Tanghua instantly felt that the surroundings were different. Compared to before, There seemed to be more of a living person. Are you waiting for Wei Xin to come back? Why did you come to find Wei Xin? Zhang Zilin invited Tanghua to sit at the white jade table. He even personally brewed tea for her. The tea was spirit tea. It had been many years, but it was very well preserved. When it was brewed, its fragrance spread. Just a sip would make one feel refreshed. I want to impart some cultivation techniques and treasures to her so that she can cultivate and become an immortal as soon as possible. Then, she can go to the immortal world and find trouble with Yunichin. She can expose his actions and let Yunichin's reputation spread far and wide. After that, I plan to extract Yunichin's soul. As long as Yunichin doesn't die and his soul is under my control, there will be no such thing as fate. Zhang Zilin, that's a good idea. According to the frequency of Wei Xin going out, he should be back in a day. You can make some preparations in advance. Tanghua took out a portrait. I've already prepared it. She opened the portrait. Zhang Zilin was surprised when he saw it. It was actually her portrait. Since I'm going to give her something, I can't do it secretly. I have to show my face, Tanghua explained. Zhang Zilin thought for a while and nodded. That makes sense. Chapter 46:51. Tanghua, then I won't stand on ceremony. My parents will probably like it too, so I can give them some to try. So there's something for your parents. Zhang Zilin finished speaking, and a few more jars appeared on the table. Do you think these are okay? They're all good stuff, but I can't accept your things for no reason. Tanghua's face was full of suspicion. You said earlier that we were fated to be married. You're not thinking of using this to make me owe you something and then bind me to you, are you? Zhang Zilin said a little frantically. No, I didn't mean that. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought of that. Now that he thought about it, he did have that thought. But seeing Tanghua's unhappy expression, he said, I, Zhang Zilin, don't like to force people to do things they don't like. You can rest assured. I'm giving you these because I want to. All right. I also don't think you're that kind of person. System. Does this count as pretending to be innocent after getting a bargain? Tanghua wanted to get down to business. When we reach the celestial realm, can you divine who Yun Ichin's original body is? It's not easy. The other person should have some kind of magic treasure on him, or where he lives that can hide from the heavens. However, if that person appears in front of me, I will be able to sense it. But last time I beat him up so badly that he probably won't be able to recover for thousands of years. He probably won't show himself too ostentatiously. Zhang Zilin thought that Tanghua was worried that that person would cause trouble and comforted her. I'll follow you from now on. You can do whatever you want. I'm invincible now. I see. With Zhang Zilin's words, Tanghua wasn't worried anymore. She stood up with the portrait. I'll go out and make some arrangements. When Wei Xian gets the portrait, I'll return to the celestial realm. Wei Xian was still cultivating hard and had encountered many troubles. For cultivation resources, she had no choice but to go out and take risks often, causing her to be covered in injuries. If Zhang Zilin hadn't helped her protect the child in her womb under such intense cultivation, even if the child was saved, there would have been problems sooner or later. After Tanghua finished making arrangements, she returned to Zhang Zilin's place and found him staring at the tea in his teacup. He had even put a hand bone in the teacup. What are you doing? I'm drinking tea, Zhang Zilin replied. Tanghua saw that the tea in the teacup had indeed decreased by a lot. She suddenly thought of the dragon with only bones left in a certain world. The way it drank wine was similar to Zhang Zilin's, soaking it in its bones. However, the dragon was much more unlucky than Zhang Zilin. Its flesh had been shaved off. Zhang Zilin, on the other hand, took the initiative to decompose the flesh and blood, leaving only the bones behind. He then asked someone to help him dismantle them and put them into a box. That dragon was unable to regrow flesh and blood, but Zhang Zilin was a saint, so he could regrow flesh and blood. Tanghua thought of something. If she ate barbecued meat in front of Zhang Zilin, the other party would probably cry. System, too bad, too bad. Zhang Zilin didn't know what Tanghua was thinking, so he happily chatted with her about the past. They were all stories between him and the sages during the ancient times. At that time, Zhang Zilin was extremely talented and had cultivated to the saint realm in a very short period of time. If it wasn't for the arrival of the great tribulation of heaven and earth, he would have been able to enjoy his glory. He also didn't expect that he would be entrusted with such a heavy responsibility not long after becoming a saint. Those sages really don't exist anymore? Zhang Zilin said, yes. If they gave up on this world, they still had a chance to survive and go to the void to find another holy land for cultivation. However, they chose to protect this place, so they all sacrificed themselves. Peak. Chapter 46-52. The next day, just as Jiang Zilin had said, Tangwa heard movement outside the cave. She used her divine sense to scan and saw a beautiful woman walk in. Zhang Zilin said, Wei Xian is back. If Tangwa hadn't wanted to see Wei Xian take the things, Zhang Zilin would have gone out to take a look. He had been cooped up here for many years and couldn't hold himself back. You seem to be injured. Tangwa sensed the bloody aura on Wei Xian's body and scanned her body. As expected, there were injuries all over her body. Only her abdomen was well protected. The moment Wei Xian walked into the cave, her entire body relaxed. She had clearly lost her memories. She didn't know why she had to cultivate so hard. There seemed to be a voice in her heart telling her that she had to become stronger. She touched her abdomen. Even if she didn't want to become an immortal, she had to do it for the sake of her child. She also wanted to know why she had lost her memories because she was very busy. Whose child was this? Why wasn't that person here? If that person was dead, she had to keep the child. If that person had betrayed her, she had to get her memories back. The child was that person's, and also hers. So what did it have to do with that person if she raised her child? With such thoughts, Wei Xian started to heal. After a while, Wei Xian felt that something was wrong. She hurriedly stood up and realized that there was something wrong with the place she had been sitting. Looking closely, the stone bed she had been sitting on was actually clean. The blood on it seemed to have been absorbed. Wei Xian understood that this stone bed was probably not ordinary. Tangwa and Jiang Zilin were below, listening to Wei Xian knock on the stone bed. After a while, Wei Xian finally found the box that Tangwa had left in the stone bed. Inside the box were secret cultivation manuals, some defensive treasures, and pills. Of course, there was also a portrait of her. There were a few words carved on the top of the box, left for the fated one. When Wei Xian saw these words, her heart suddenly jumped. The fated one? Was she that fated one? She carefully opened the box and found that the items inside were all extraordinary. Soon, she saw the portrait of Tangwa. When Wei Xian saw the portrait, he understood that this was the owner of the item. She then looked at the items left in the box. They were too important to her. With these things, she wouldn't have to go out on adventures often. She only needed to cultivate in peace and go out to gain experience when appropriate. Wei Xian unfolded the portrait and hung it on the wall. He stared at the portrait and muttered in a low voice, "So beautiful. She must be a fairy." System, yes, go ahead. After she finished speaking, she respectfully waved at Tangwa's portrait. Today, I was fated to obtain the item that Senior Fairy left behind and resolve Wei Xian's current difficulties. Please accept Wei Xian's 3 bows. After Wei Xian finished inspecting the items, especially the cultivation manual, her hands were trembling. Her greatest difficulty at the moment was that her cultivation technique wasn't good enough. Every time she ventured into dangerous places, she wanted to obtain a complete cultivation technique. Now that he obtained such a secret manual, Wei Xian already started cultivating. Many days later, Wei Xian opened his eyes. She walked in front of the portrait and knelt down with a plop. Senior Fairy left a cultivation technique for Wei Xian. She can be considered Wei Xian's master now. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple. Wei Xian was truly grateful. With this cultivation technique, her future cultivation would be smooth even if she didn't have anything else. Tangwa was drinking tea, but when she suddenly heard this, she almost spat it out. Top point. Chapter 46:53. Luckily, the teacup was of good quality and didn't break from her grip. After Wei Xian paid his respects, she felt the bond between them. So, did she have another disciple? Wei Xian had a good temperament and talent. Forget it, it was nothing. Jiang Ziling's exposed hand was calculating something. Wei Xian has been pitiful for so many lifetimes. His luck has finally changed. What did you calculate? Jiang Ziling withdrew his hand and hid it in his robes. The path to immortality is limitless. The old men didn't lie to me. As long as you appear, everything can be solved. Jiang Ziling was in a good mood. Not only could she solve the problems in the immortal world, she could also solve his problem of being single. Although they didn't have anything now, there would definitely be something in the future. Jiang Ziling wasn't in a hurry. He didn't have flesh and blood yet. No matter how beautiful his bones were, they couldn't compare to a body with flesh and blood. It wouldn't be too late to talk about this after he grew flesh and blood. Tanghua didn't expect Wei Xian to be so straightforward and take her as his master after cultivating her technique. Of course, she didn't dislike it. Instead, she felt that it was a pity that such a good person like Wei Xian was ruined by Yunyi-Qin. So, while Wei Xian was cultivating, she gave him something to help him become stronger so that he could beat up Yunyi-Qin properly in the future. Wei Xian was cultivating when he suddenly heard movement. He opened his eyes and saw that a ring had fallen out of the portrait. After doing this, Tanghua and Jiang Ziling teleported out of the cave. The two didn't stay and directly returned to the immortal world. It was more difficult to come to the mortal world, but it was easy to return to the immortal world. There were almost no obstacles. After arriving at the immortal world, Tanghua didn't go home. Instead, she planned to walk around. She didn't know how Yunyi-Qin was doing. According to the original situation, the original owner would go out with Yunyi-Qin to train. Because of the original owner, Yunyi-Qin's training went very smoothly. Also, the original owner helped solve many problems along the way. She taught those who bullied Yunyi-Qin a lesson and offended many people. Now that it was her, she definitely wouldn't do those cheap things. According to the original plan, Tanghua brought Jiang Ziling to look for Yunyi-Qin one by one. Soon, they found out where Yunyi-Qin was. Yunyi-Qin was currently at Dan Mountain and had gotten into a conflict with someone. Tanghua remembered that someone had mocked Yunyi-Qin for being a mere Xian immortal. How could he be liked by the original owner? The original owner of the body was the daughter of the Azure Emperor. There were many admirers in the immortal world. After she married Yunyi-Qin, many people hated Yunyi-Qin, especially those who thought they had a great chance with the original host. The person who had a conflict with Yunyi-Qin on Pill Mountain was the son of the Pill Emperor, Lin Chu. The Pill Mountain was the territory of the Pill Emperor. Yunyi-Qin came here to participate in the Pill Emperor's Pill Concoction Conference. The winner would receive a reward from the Pill Emperor. They might even be able to receive some pointers from the Pill Emperor. Yunyi-Qin also came here to receive a reward. He had many fortuitous encounters and learned many skills. He wouldn't miss out on anything useful for cultivation. Lin Chu was the son of the Pill Emperor. Because Yunyi-Qin and the original owner of the body were engaged, he didn't like Yunyi-Qin. Originally, he didn't want to participate in the Pill Concoction Conference. However, knowing that Yunyi-Qin was here, he couldn't let it go. When Tanghua and Jiang Ziling appeared in the crowd, they happened to see them concocting pills. The pill concoction competition was coming to an end. There were only 5 people left on the stage. Yunyi-Qin and Lin Chu were among them. The last round was about to begin. Lin Chu didn't expect Yunyi-Qin to be so powerful. However, he believed in his own abilities. As the son of the Pill Emperor, how could he lose to a nobody? It would be embarrassing. Tanghua looked at her memories. In the last round, the original owner gave Yunyi-Qin a top-grade alchemy furnace. Using the top-grade alchemy method, Yunyi-Qin won against Lin Chu by a narrow margin. This time, she wouldn't give it to him. Chapter 46:54. Yunyi-Qin didn't know that Tanghua had appeared below the stage. He was now wholeheartedly thinking about how to deal with the last round. He had already done his best to continue for so many rounds. If Lin Chu hadn't participated, The final winner of this alchemy conference would definitely have been him. Lin Chu was the son of a pill emperor after all. It was also because Lin Chu didn't think highly of him in the beginning that he used some tricks to tie with Lin Chu. The first few rounds of the alchemy conference seemed to be used to prove one's ability. The final round would determine the true winner. Yunichin frowned as he thought. When the spiritual herbs were distributed, he had no other choice but to bite the bullet and refine pills. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that in the last round, Lin Chu was better than Yunichin. Of course, Yunichin wasn't that bad either. He was just slightly inferior. This Yunichin's ability is indeed not small. Zhang Zilin's voice sounded in Tanggua's ear. If he had a top-grade alchemy cauldron in his hands, it's hard to say who would win, Tanggua, but he doesn't have one. When Zhang Zilin heard Tanggua's words, he felt that she was implying something, but he couldn't guess why. Tanggua continued, according to the original plan, I would have come out with him to gain experience. At that time, I would have given him the top-grade alchemy cauldron that my father gave me. Then, he would have one. Now, I won't give it to him. Naturally, he can't have it. Was a top-grade alchemy cauldron something that could be casually given to others? This Yunichin was just a cruel and unscrupulous person. He didn't remember anyone's good deeds. He was a typical ungrateful and selfish person. Zhang Zilin could hear the anger in Tanggua's voice. He had never comforted anyone before and didn't know how to arrange things. However, he still said, don't be angry. He will definitely lose today. Let me tell you something else. Yunichin's borrowed luck is dissipating. Tanggua was a little surprised. Borrowed luck? He borrowed Wei Xian's and yours. If I'm not wrong, it should be Yunichin himself who did this. It's very easy for an almighty from the world of immortals to scheme against a few juniors. Tanggua suddenly understood that Wei Xian's appearance and her encounter with Yunichin might have been part of someone's plan. Now that she thought about it, it seemed to be true. Ever since Yunichin and Wei Xian got married, everything had been smooth sailing. Yunichin improved very quickly. Wei Xian's innate talent wasn't bad, but his cultivation speed wasn't as fast as Yunichin's. After Yunichin left and Wei Xian revived, his cultivation speed seemed to have increased again. Yunichin's life in the immortal world was very bumpy. If he didn't have someone to help him, he might not even be able to survive in the immortal world. Ever since he met the original owner of the body, everything had been smooth sailing. It was as if he had cheated. The original owner's innate talent was also very good, but after Yunichin appeared, her cultivation speed slowed down. However, many people thought that the higher the cultivation level, the harder it was to cultivate. They didn't think that there was anything wrong with the original owner's cultivation speed. The immortal emperors of the immortal world can't tell that the mastermind is scheming against the luck, because this is considered an open conspiracy, Zhang Zilin said. This open conspiracy is that if one didn't know about Yunichin's background, no one would think of it. Dao partners can borrow each other's luck. It's just not a lot, but a little bit is enough for the weaker party to benefit. Tanggua said, I'm really getting more and more curious about who's scheming against us. Apex. That person's providence was almost stolen. Zhang Zilin's words shocked Tanggua. It was like this world was different from the world she had lived in before. It could easily take away someone's luck. Tanggua recalled the memories she had seen before. After Yunichin defeated Lin Chu was indeed unable to recover from the setback. It seemed like his cultivation hadn't improved for many years. This was because Yunichin, a tiny little mysterious immortal, had actually defeated the dignified dandy's son. He had become the laughingstock of the immortal world. And because the original owner had taken advantage of the situation at the crucial moment, she had given Yunichin a top-grade pill furnace, which could be considered as offending the dandy. Thinking about it this way, Yunichin's every step was as if he had stepped on someone else's body. Thinking about it carefully, it was really scary. Tanggua. While Tanggua was still deep in thought, Lin Chu had already discovered her presence. He shouted loudly as he ran in front of Tanggua. You're here too? Peek. Chapter 46-56. That's right. Tangwa returned to her senses and smiled at Lin Chu. Lin Chu wasn't an arrogant and despotic second-generation immortal. He was just impulsive. She also noticed that there was another person beside Lin Chu. She had never seen this person before and didn't know who he was. Lin Chu chuckled and turned to look at Uni-chin. Are you here to watch him compete? You can say that. Tangwa saw that Uni-chin had also noticed her and was walking towards her. Her smile faded a little. You almost lost. Nonsense. I was careless. I didn't think that a mere mystic immortal would have such great ability. Lin Chu didn't admit that he would lose. If I wasn't careless, he wouldn't have been so impressive in the beginning. His words were the truth. This time, he had learned his lesson. He definitely wouldn't dare to do such a thing again. His father was right. There was always someone better than you. He was usually too self-righteous. Actually, Lin Chu was still very puzzled about something. He remembered that Tangwa had a top-notch pill furnace. It was the kind that even his father coveted. Since Tangwa was here today, why didn't she lend it to Uni-chin? Didn't they say that Tangwa was infatuated with Uni-chin, that pretty boy? She wanted to praise him to the heavens. Why didn't she help him? Was it just for fun? Or did she have a change of heart? Wasn't this change of heart too fast? Lin Chu secretly glanced at the cloaked person standing beside Tangwa. He even wore a mask and covered his face tightly. He narrowed his eyes. What kind of pretty boy was he? How could he hide his head and show his tail? He didn't even dare to show his face. Xiaogua. Uni-chin walked to Tangwa's side and called out lightly. Tangwa's appearance made his mood a little better. She was probably here to look for him. She might be training with him in the future. Brother I-chin. Tangwa greeted Jiang Ziling as usual. Instantly, she felt a slight change in Jiang Ziling's aura. However, it was only for a moment before Jiang Ziling withdrew all of his aura. Uni-chin also noticed Jiang Ziling's attire and felt that this person was very strange. However, when he looked around, there was no one else around. He remembered that Tangwa would usually have someone accompanying her when she went out. Emperor Qing had even arranged 2 people to protect him. Therefore, he guessed that this person who did not show his face must be an expert arranged by Emperor Qing. Everyone in the immortal world knew how much the Azure the Arch doted on his daughter. Brother I-chin, you seem to have improved a lot. Father was right. You have to go out and gain experience to improve quickly. Tangwa praised him first. Uni-chin was used to Tangwa's praise, so he didn't feel much. Instead, he asked, Are you also out to gain experience? No, I'm out to play. Chapter 46-57. Her answer was perfect. It's not that I don't want to be with you, but I can't disturb you. Uni-chin did have the idea of having Tangwa train with him. In fact, he realized that ever since he was with Tangwa, his luck had become much better. In the mystic realm that they went to previously, Tangwa could find many treasures wherever she went. She could lean against the wall casually and find the key to the array formation in a secret room. This was also why Uni-chin allowed Tangwa to have feelings for him and even agreed to their engagement. It was because her existence could help him cultivate. After becoming an immortal, he knew that there was still a saint. Becoming a saint was much harder than becoming an immortal, especially since the legacy of becoming a saint had been lost, and there were no saints now. Who wouldn't want to be the first saint? Uni-chin thought that Tangwa would follow him. He didn't expect her to be so sensible and not disturb him. He frowned. Tangwa quickly said, Brother I-chin, don't doubt me. I really won't disturb you. Don't worry. You can train in peace. I'll wait for you to cultivate to the immortal Lord realm. There were many people watching. Uni-chin wanted to say something, but he couldn't. Looking at Tangwa's innocent smile, he suddenly felt a little irritated and didn't want to pay attention to her. Uni-chin replied faintly, Where do you plan to go next? I'll stay in Elixir Mountain for a while. I have a few old friends here. I'll drink with them and then go to other places to take a look after a while. Uni-chin's plan was ruined. The old friends that Tangwa mentioned should be Lin Chu and the other immortals. He and these people were born to be enemies. Moreover, he had to cultivate all the time. He didn't know how long Tangwa would stay, so he naturally couldn't stay here and waste time. Brother Ichin, go and train. You don't have to accompany me. I know you're doing this for our future. Her words made Yoon Ichin feel as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat. However, that was how he appeared on the surface, so he only grunted and left. Tangwa didn't say anything like before, which made Yoon Ichin very depressed. Tangwa touched the storage ring on her finger. What do you think? What a joke. How is that possible? She would rather feed her things to the dogs than give them to Yoon Ichin. Tangwa, have you changed your mind? Yoon Ichin had been gone for a long time. Lin Chu and Tangwa had also changed places. Lin Chu also called a few other people that Tangwa was familiar with to come to a tea house in Danshan City. It had indeed been a long time since these second-generation immortals had gathered. Ever since Tangwa became infatuated with that brat named Yoon Ichin, she had shattered the hearts of many second-generation immortals. Chapter 4658. By the way, why did you participate in the alchemy conference? Tangwa asked deliberately. According to normal circumstances, Lin Chu shouldn't have gone. Even if he was a second-generation immortal, he wouldn't be that stupid. Just because of a small, profound immortal, he lowered his status to compete with the other party. Just thinking about it made him feel suffocated. No matter if he won or lost, Lin Chu wouldn't get a good evaluation. If he won, as the son of a pill emperor, shouldn't that be the case? If he lost, then he was finished. He was the son of a pill emperor, but he actually lost to a nobody. It was equivalent to being Yoon Ichin's stepping stone. Speaking of this, Lin Chu's expression was also very ugly. Maybe my brain went haywire at that time. He even glared at Tangwa. Wasn't it because of you? If you didn't like that pretty boy, would I have been so impulsive? So you're saying that it was because of me? Tangwa asked with a smile. Lin Chu gave up resisting. Just take it that I couldn't swallow my anger. Only if my brain went haywire would I do something irrational, because you like that pretty boy. My father probably knows about it now. I don't know how he'll deal with me. I plan to go out and hide. Tangwa realized that the person beside Lin Chu just now wasn't here. She asked, who was the person beside you just now? A good friend I met by chance. Lin Chu's expression was strange. No way, no way. Are you eating from the bowl while looking at the pot? Without waiting for Lin Chu to continue speaking, Tangwa picked up the teacup and threw it at his face. Lin Chu hurriedly caught it and begged for mercy. He's a good friend. I met him during my training. I think he's a good person. His name is Jiang Chuang. He knew that we were familiar with each other and didn't want to disturb us, so he left first. Speaking of Jiang Chuang, Lin Chu's expression suddenly changed. Everyone else's expression froze. They all saw Lin Chu's change. Sweet potato Lin Chu came back to his senses. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he said, I just remembered something. It was Jiang Chuang who told me about Yoon Ichin's participation in the alchemy conference. He also told me a lot. Yoon Ichin, a mere Xian immortal, was able to gain the favor of Emperor Qing's daughter. His words clearly showed that he was slapping the faces of us, the second generation of immortals. Do you mean that Jiang Chuang deliberately provoked you to make a fool of you? Tangwa asked. In fact, she just said it casually. She didn't expect this to be involved. She and Jiang Zilin looked at each other. Could it be that Jiang Chuang was also arranged by that person? If that was the case, wasn't he trying to sow discord between the immortal emperors of the immortal world? Lin Chu's face darkened. Now that I think about it carefully, that's most likely the case. If I was alone or with you guys, I definitely wouldn't have done it so impulsively. We all know the importance of this kind of thing. In this kind of meaningless competition, only people of our status would be at a disadvantage. If we won, it wouldn't be glorious. It would even make people think that we're bullying others. Did you find Jiang Chuang's tracks? Tangwa asked Jiang Zilin, who was beside her. Everyone else's eyes widened. Could it be that they guessed wrong? I found it, Jiang Zilin said. Wait for me. After saying that, Jiang Zilin's figure disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Just as they were shocked, Jiang Zeline appeared in the same place in a flash. This was done in the blink of an eye. Jiang Zeline placed a half-burnt paper man on the table. Everyone stared at the paper man in confusion. Paper puppet? Tanghua was surprised. It was different from the paper puppet in her hands. Paper puppets that could reach the level of true immortals were slightly more troublesome to refine. Paper puppets of this level couldn't be used in worlds that didn't have cultivation power. If they weren't careful, the world would be destroyed. Jiang Chuang's aura. Lin Chu held the paper puppet and sniffed it. So, this is Jiang Chuang? Damn! Someone used a paper puppet to scheme against me. Who is this despicable guy? Lin Chu's eyes widened. How much hatred does he have? He spent so much to scheme against me. Does he feel good after seeing me make a fool of myself? I don't have anyone, right? Tanghua was silent. That person wanted to scheme against the luck of these second-generation immortals and then cause chaos in the immortal world. Was he trying to fish in troubled waters? If all the luck can be calculated on one person, that person might be able to accumulate luck and become a sage. Jiang Zeline transmitted his voice to Tanghua. It's not impossible, but many people will be sacrificed. He probably felt that it was hopeless to break my restriction, so he chose this method. Peak. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.